Hello and what's up, GSC Pokemon Challenges fam? How you guys doing? We are back, episode 13 of the Clair Minimum Battles series. Today, we're coming in with 13 new challengers. It's actually a little bit more than what I said in the last episode because I realized, based on the participants, we're gonna have to get a couple more Pokemon into this one. We're coming in with Mr. Mime, Jynx, Electabuzz, and Magmar. Electabuzz and Magmar means that we have to do the member pick Elekid and that Magby. Then we've got Tauros, and if we're doing Tauros, we got to do its counterpart Miltank, which has been added onto the episode. Then we've got Gyarados, we've got Lapras, we've got Sneasel, we've got Teddiursa, and Ursaring. Now, we've already seen a lot of Pokemon get through this section. So far, Clair has been a complete pushover. She hasn't really stopped anything, but we still have to get in here and test completely how these Pokemon do. And today, I think there are 3 challengers that have some potential to struggle. Of course, we've got Teddiursa as the unevolved normal type coming in. We've got Magby, which really might not have the moves to get through Clair. We'll just have to see, keeping in mind that is a normal, still in the running Pokemon, so it doesn't get the advantage of like member pick shenanigans to get through here. And honestly, while we're at it, Magmar might actually struggle because I'm pretty sure that something like Electabuzz can actually learn Ice Punch here to get through Clair. I think that's going to make her super easy. Magmar, I know for a fact, does not learn Ice Punch, so it could be a situation where that Pokemon actually runs into a wall. We're just going to have to see how this goes. I'm going to predict that basically everything gets through except Magby. That's my prediction going in, but let's see how this actually works out. This is going to be a massive episode. I'm probably going to record all day to get this done, but I just want to get through this Clair section as quickly as possible. You may have noticed that I've been like rotating between Clair minimum battles and doing like a gym leader challenge, and it's because of time. The Clair section takes so much time in spite of the fact that we have very little progress to show for it, that I have to kind of mix it up with some other challenges if I'm going to keep videos coming out. So just take that for what you will. I hope you guys are enjoying the gym leader series, but if you have comments on that, definitely tell me down below so that I can dial that in as well. Anyway, let's get to this action. We are coming in with Mr. Mime. Let's see how the psychic Mime goes. So coming in with our Mimey boy here, we have Confusion, Barrier, Substitute, and Fire Punch. I think Fire Punch will very likely fall off to become Ice Punch. That is likely our way through Clair, but we're just going to have to see how this goes. I think that the Confusion will carry us pretty well through this entire Rocket section, and I'm going to keep the Fire Punch just for the random Magnemites and things. Let's see how that actually works out for us. Now, as usual, I'm going to be playing with massive amounts of speed up just to get through this section as quickly as I can, because honestly, there are just so many rando traders here that it takes forever to get through these episodes if I don't use the speed up. Still, I'll stop and comment on anything that actually proves to be interesting as we go through, but I think Mr. Mime's gonna have an easy time making it to the Marlboro Man. Now, Mr. Mime gets to level up and learn Psybeam here. Obviously, we're just gonna learn that over Confusion. I'm gonna keep Barrier and Substitute because I think they could be useful, and then we'll just keep our extra move slot for a coverage move. I think this is the best way to go with this Pokemon, but let's just see. And sure enough, with no issues whatsoever, we make it to the Marlboro Man. I think we destroy him with the Psybeam, but let's see how this actually works out. So up against the first Coughing, of course, I just go Psybeam, and that is an easy one-hit KO. Second Coughing comes out, we're just going to destroy this one as well. The real question is the Wheezing that he sends out third. We go Psybeam, and it is a one-hitter. So with that, we can guarantee that everything else is simply a one-hit KO here. I'm just going to speed through the rest of it, and just like that, the Marlboro Man, he goes down super easy, and we're ready to move on in this challenge. So now we're going to make it down to the rival. Obviously, we've got Psybeam for anything other than the Magnemite. We might still end up going for the Fire Punch specifically against the Meganium, just because it is super effective. And of course, we'll need the Fire Punch for the Sneasel since we can't affect that with Psychic type moves, but I think we'll be perfectly fine to get through this. Let's see how it works. So Rival 4 attempt number 1 right here against the Golbat. I just go Psybeam and one shot. That's perfect. Out comes the Sneasel. We go Fire Punch and destroy it in a single hit. Magnemite comes out just to get completely wrecked. We get to level 38 as the Haunter comes out. Psybeam will destroy that Pokemon. And now Meganium comes out. Technically, Fire Punch is still stronger than Psybeam. It's going to be a 2-hit KO. It body slams, but that meant nothing. So we easily get through that Rival 4 fight, and we're ready to move on in the game. So I think all we do in this entire section from here on out is we just swap out the Fire Punch for Ice Punch when we get to Clair, and then swap back to Fire Punch when we get to Rival number 5. We've seen numerous times already in this series that you do get enough money at this point that you can basically just switch back and forth between those department store TMs like 20 or 30 times, frankly. So it's not like we wouldn't have enough money to get the TMs that we need. And I think that is the best strategy as we move forward. We just want to be able to match up as well as we can against each opponent in front of us. And Fire Punch obviously isn't going to get the job done against Clair. So Ice Punch it is. However, there is a small argument for learning Thunder Punch at this point, just because of the Houndoom and Houndour that are coming at the end of this section. That would give us a neutral move against them. So I might go Thunder Punch right now and then go for the Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, though we could also go for something like Headbutt, I guess. But as a special attacker, I think I'll just go for the Thunder Punch instead, just to finish this section off. And sure enough, with no issues, we make it to the final executive. Let's just beat up on his entire team and prove to him that he is not Giovanni. So first up on the Houndour, I'm going Thunder Punch right here. That's an easy 1-hit KO. Out comes the Houndoom next. Thunder Punch does slightly less than half. It did a fair amount of damage with Bite, but we are faster, so we get the 3-hitter there. And on the final Coughing, Psybeam gets the job done. So it's not actually super easy to get through those last 3 Pokemon, especially the Houndoom does require multiple hits here to take down, but at the end of the day, it's not that bad because we outspeed, so he can't like flinch us with Bite or something there in order to get a victory. And he doesn't have anything stronger than Bite, so we are basically guaranteed to win when we get there. But a slower Psychic type Pokemon might struggle. We'll just have to see if that ever is actually a thing. I don't think there are any slow Psychic types left. But with that done, we are now ready to make our way over to Blackthorn. Let's just go take on Clair with this one, throwing on the Ice Punch over the top of that Thunder Punch to get it to go. And then when we get to the actual Kingdra, I think we just sit there and spam the Psybeam, since that is our same type move and nothing is super effective against that Pokemon, at least with this Mr. Mime. We have no dragon type moves, so we're just going to have to see if that turns out to be enough. Now, just as a test, I'm going Psybeam on the Dragonair just before Clair, just to see that, yes, in fact, Psybeam cannot 1-hit KO, so we will want to go for the Ice Punch. I think Ice Punch will be enough here, though, so I'm going to go in with this setup. A Paralyzed Cure Berry is almost required here, but I think we can get through. Let's just test this and find out. So Clair attempt number 1 right here. We're going straight for the Ice Punch on the first Dragonair. That gets us to level 44. Second Dragonair, we can Ice Punch and one-shot as well. Third Dragonair is where I'm actually going to change. I'm going to go for Substitute here. It goes for Thunder Wave. That's perfectly fine. Now I'm going to set up a barrier, with the idea being to just make it so that I'm got massive defense in case we get a Hyper Beam at the end. And funny enough, this Dragonair doesn't understand that I have a Substitute up, so it just keeps going for the Thunder Wave, and we're just going to knock that Pokemon out in a single hit. That brings us to Kingdra. Now I'm going Psybeam. It does pretty reasonable damage. Then we get Surf, which breaks our Substitute. Now she Hyper Potions, and this looks like a 3-hit KO. We got a lucky crit on the first turn there, but we easily get through Clair on the first attempt. She's going to call Hacks because we put up a Substitute and she wasn't able to get Thunder Wave on us, and we're going to tell her to stop thinking that this is Gen 1 and that you can hit opponents with status behind a Substitute. Anyway, with that, we can now pretty easily get through the rest of these trainers, I think, and make our way off to Rival 5, where we're just going to have to see how this goes as we progress. If we get through Rival 5, which I think we will, then I think we've got pretty much a smooth ride through the league until we get to Karen. Karen is the only spot in the league that I think could actually stop this Mr. Mime, because we're going to have all the elemental punches, so we're just going to be able to trade them in and out. And we also get Shadow Ball, which will answer Will. So by the time that we get to Karen, it's just going to be about getting through her dark types. We're not going to have the best moves there, but that's where a YOLO dynamic punch could come in as a possible strategy for getting through. And when you combine that with the fact that we can set up a YOLO dynamic punch and we can set up substitute, I think we'll be able to get through. And when we get to Lance, we have elemental punches out the wazoo. We could just learn Psychic when we get to Kanto, so I think we can forget Psybeam even. I think we'll have good chances. So, of course, we're going to come tell these old guys about the fact that we are going to completely destroy Lance if we ever get there, and they're going to go ahead and demand that we get our badge, but they're going to send Claire out in advance to warn Lancey Boy and tell him to tell Karen to put on her A game to protect him from this Mr. Mime here. Still, with that done, I think the rival is going to go down super easy. I think we just learned Fire Punch for this next fight, and we're good to go. Of course, he leads off with the Sneasel, so I think we're just going to need the Fire Punch in order to knock that Pokemon out. Fortunately, I already have Fire Punch in the bag, so we'll just go ahead and slap that on to this Mr. Mime here over Ice Punch. Ice Punch did its job, and it will come back later in the future, assuming we get to Lancey Boy. Still, we'll worry about all of that after we get through the rival here. So rival 5 time, let's see if we beat him on the first attempt with the Fire Punch strats. I think we've got good chances, but let's test and see. So, of course, the rival leads off with the Sneasel. We're just going to Fire Punch this Pokemon, completely destroying it. Out next comes Golbat. We'll just go Psybeam. Easy, easy victory. That brings out the Magneton. We're going back to the Fire Punch to destroy it in a single hit. Haunter never stood a chance against the Psybeam. Out next comes the Kadabra. We're going to have to Fire Punch this Pokemon, and it's going to be a 2-hitter. Of course, it uses Future Sight against me, but we easily take it down. We could learn Safeguard at this point, protect ourselves from status. I'm not sure if that's actually worth it though, so I'm going to skip the move. Tell me if you think that's a mistake in the comments below. But for now, we're just going to Fire Punch this Meganium. It goes Reflect. We get hit by Future Sight, but it's a non-factor, and we easily win against the rival. So just like that, Mr. Mime comes in. He stands on the steps of the league. As I mentioned, I think we've got all the moves that we need to actually get through here. If anything proves to be a wall for this Pokemon, it's going to be Karen. But even on Karen, we've got super effective Psybeam for the Gengar and for the Vileplume. So it really just comes down to the Espeon, the Murkrow, and the Houndoom. There could be a situation where we have to forget something like Substitute or forget something like Barrier there in order to add on one more damage dealing move, something like Thunder Punch that will allow us to easily take down the Murkrow. But like I said, there's not a whole lot that we can do against the Umbreon and the Houndoom. I think I said Espeon earlier by mistake, but against the Umbreon and the Houndoom, I think the best strat is just going to be the YOLO dynamic punch strat, hoping to both confuse them and to get damage. And it might be that we still need an extra move after they're confused just to finish them off with higher accuracy. That's where, again, a third move like Thunder Punch might come into play, but I think we're ultimately going to get this to go. We'll just have to test this and see. For now, we have made it through this section and we're ready to move on. So with Mr. Mime done, we're going to move on to our Jynx next. We're just going to stick with our Psychic types to get them done. Of course, we've got Ice Punch, Powder Snow, Lovely Kiss, and Headbutt. No Psychic type moves available here. And our next level up move is going to be Mean Look followed by Body Slam. We will not get anything else in this section. Still, the Ice Punch is pretty darn good. And we have the Sleep strats. We could always go Nightmare if we really need to YOLO into something. We'll likely just have to go with our neutral damage dealing moves when we get to the Houndoom. If I can get to Body Slam by that point, I'll obviously replace Headbutt with Body Slam just because it's stronger and has the chance to paralyze. Our big issue is just that we don't have a great attack stat, so I'm not sure how that's actually going to work out. But for now, let's just get into this Rocket section. Let's beat up on them as quickly as we can. Powder Snow can always come off of the moveset as well, since it's just so much weaker than the Ice Punch. But we're just going to have to see how this goes, because there are Magnetons and Sneasels and things in this section that we actually can't really use our ice type moves against effectively. Still, we've got the massive special attack, so we should be dealing pretty decent damage with Stab, Ice Punch in a lot of situations. So let's just see how this works out. And sure enough, we make it to the Marlboro Man with 0 issues. We've one-shot everything up to this point, so I think we've got good chances of getting through here just with the Stab, Ice Punch, but let's find out. So here against the first Coughing, we Ice Punch it, and it obviously goes down in a single hit. He sends out the Wheezing second, we Ice Punch it, and it goes down as well. So with that, we know that the rest of these Coughings go down as just 1-hit KOs, so there's no reason to play normal speed. We'll speed up, and just like that, we're ready to move on to the Rival. The Rival I expect to be the hardest trainer in this section for Jynx, because of the fact that he has so many Pokemon that resist the Ice type, but even then, I think our Stab with Ice Punch and our massive special attack will be enough to get through, but we'll try Headbutt just to see how it does on the Sneasel in this one. I think I stick with Ice Punch on the Magneton since it resists normal type moves as well, so let's just see how this goes. So Rival 4 attempt number 1, we're going to Ice Punch the first Golbat and easily destroy it. Out comes Sneasel second. I'm going to give it a lovely kiss. And now let's Headbutt and see what it does. It looks like a 3-hit KO with Headbutt. Let's see what Ice Punch does. It might have been a 2-hit KO with Ice Punch, so Ice Punch might be the play. Quilava comes out next. We miss the lovely kiss here. We do kind of want to put this Pokemon to sleep so that we get the free turns. And then we can go for Ice Punch just because I think it's stronger here, even with the resistance. It's not just about the power difference, because technically Headbutt has stronger power in this situation, but our stats, it's almost 2-to-1 special attack to attack. So it just makes sense to go for the Ice Punch here, I think. And on low health, we'll even use Powder Snow to finish that one off. Magnemite comes out. Let's go for the Ice Punch. It just barely misses getting the 1-hit KO. We'll just take it out. And that brings out the Haunter Blast. We can go Ice Punch in one shot. So we get through the Rival on the first attempt. It's not like it's crazy easy to get through that, but the fact that we have access to sleep makes that a perfectly manageable fight. At least you might lose once in a blue moon, but I think you would mostly win with this Pokemon. And after that, I just don't expect to have many issues with these randos down here. There are a couple fire types, but I don't think they're going to be able to do enough to stop me, and we can heal in between battles with potions, so this is going to be perfectly fine. Now here we level up and get to learn Body Slam. I'm actually going to learn it over Powder Snow. We'll keep the Headbutt so that maybe we can flinch opponents. Of course, we can swap moves in if we want to later on. We have things like Shadow Ball available to us as like extra moves if we need something for something, but honestly, I think we just go with this moveset as it is. It's probably enough to get us through this section. And with no issues, we make it to Mr. Wannabe Giovanni, arguably one of the harder battles for this Pokemon because we can't really do as much damage with our Ice type moves. Maybe the Headbutt and Body Slam are better here. Let's test it and find out. So first up, against the first Houndour, I'm just going to go Ice Punch, and it survives. So yeah, we're not going to deal as much damage here with that move. So maybe Body Slam Headbutt is the way to go. I'm going to put this Houndoom to sleep with the lovely kiss. Now let's Body Slam it. We do about half, so this is a 2-hit KO. We'll just take it down, and that brings out the Coughing. We can go back to Ice Punch and destroy that Pokemon. We get through with more health than we had with Mr. Mime at the end of that fight, thanks to the sleep, so we'll take it. We're ready to move on now to Clair. This should be one of the easier gyms for this Pokemon. Obviously, the 3 Dragonairs are complete non-factors in this one with our Ice Punch, so we just have to get through that. Kingdra will have neutrally effective moves, so the only question is if the Hyper Beam can like knock me out from full health or, you know, reasonable high health, and it gets a victory that way. I think that's the only way that Clair actually manages to beat me here. And in that case, we can always just YOLO into fishing for a freeze or use sleep strats in order to get the victory there. So I think this is going to be super simple to get through at the end of the day. We'll just have to see. I will pick up Never Melt Ice here since I don't think we're going to have to worry about paralysis, and we might just want to increase our damage a little bit on that final Kingdra. It could affect the ranges. We'll just have to see. But honestly, I think if we just go in with that setup, we'll have decent enough chances to get the victory. And sure enough, we make it to Clair with no issues. Like even against the random Seadras, Ice Punch was still 2-hit KOing. So we get through nice and easy. Now it's just time to take on this gym leader and see how she goes. So So Clair attempt number 1, we're just going to Ice Punch the first Dragonair and get a guaranteed victory on that one. She sends out the Kingdra second. She obviously knows she can't stand up to us with anything else. I'm going Lovely Kiss to put it to sleep. Yes, she has healing items, but here we just two-shot that Pokemon. She didn't even try. And with that, we're going to be able to just one-shot the remaining Dragonairs, and Clair goes down super easily. She's going to call hacks yet again, but this is clearly just her being really salty. I mean, I think she thought that this like lava that's in the background here would somehow like weaken ice-type Pokemon. We got to tell her that that's not the way that this works. Still, with that being done, we can now make our way through to Rival 5, who, again, technically should be one of the harder fights for this Pokemon in this section. Definitely much harder than Clair, given how much she likes to just punt on every single battle. But I don't think that the Rival is going to be able to muster enough to stop us, so I think we'll get the victory. I'm pretty sure we outspeed everything, so we can put the first Sneasel to sleep, we can put the Magneton to sleep, and once we get them asleep, I think we can get the KO ranges that we need. So that's going to be my strategy on that fight. And obviously, Lancey Boy added the Charizard to his team specifically to deal with a Pokemon like Jynx that's going to outspeed everything there. He just needs one Pokemon that can actually survive, because the Gyarados, while also neutrally effective, probably isn't going to get the job done given the fact that he just obsesses over using Rain Dance at the start of the fight. So I get the feeling that we're going to have really good chances if we can ever get to Lancey Boy, and I think we've got enough moves. Our Stab Ice moves should be good enough for everything on Karen's team, other than, of course, the Houndoom, but we could fish for a freeze at that point and maybe be able to get the victory, or it could just be Sleep gets us the victory there. So we'll just have to see when we actually get there, but I am strongly predicting that this Jynx is going all the way through the league. I don't think the Rival's going to stop us, and I don't think anything at the league is going to stop us. And then when we manage to get to Kanto, we're going to get access to Psychic. We'll be able to get Ice Beam from the Move Tutor. I mean, there are so many moves coming in for this Pokemon that could make it completely OP in that section of the game. Still, we're going to have to get through the Rival first, so let's see if my strategy works or not. First up, we've got the Sneasel. We're going straight for the Lovely Kiss here to put it to sleep. Now I'm going to Body Slam this Pokemon, and it's a simple 2-hit KO to take it down. Out next comes the Typhlosion. We put it to sleep as well. Given its stats, I still think Ice Punch is the way to go here. It looks like a 3-hit KO. It wakes up and goes Flame Wheel on me. I'm going to put it back to sleep. Let's see what the Body Slam does. Body Slam and Ice Punch seem to be doing similar amounts on that Pokemon. We take it down, and out comes the Golbat, which is an easy 1-hit KO. The Magneton comes out. We Lovely Kiss. Now I'm going to go Ice Punch here and get the 2-hit KO range, so that's perfectly fine. Haunter comes out only to get Ice Punched and destroyed, and that will bring out the Kadabra. I'm just sticking with Ice Punch here and getting the easy victory. So just like that, we managed to beat the Rival on the first attempt with our Jynx. It's going to stand on the steps of the league. 16 minutes of time that just validates everything that we already knew about this Pokemon. I think we throw Shadow Ball on over Headbutt for the next fight, and that's basically our strategy for a while. I think we beat Koga. I think we beat Bruno. Like, even though he's got fighting type moves, we're going to be faster. We've got Sleep. I think we can get that to go. And then when we get to Karen, she's going to be like the last hope of the league. I don't think Lance is going to stand up to this Pokemon, because at worst, we're going to be fishing for a freeze, but I think there's a high likelihood we'll be able to get through. Still, we're just going to have to test it and find out, but for now, Jynx gets through. We're ready to move on now to Electabuzz. So Electabuzz is coming into this section with Thunder Punch, Fire Punch, Quick Attack, and Light Screen. As mentioned, we do get Ice Punch, so we can always replace the Fire Punch with the Ice Punch. Quick Attack can obviously be upgraded at any time. It's only 40 power. We've got plenty of other moves. So I think we're going to get through this super easy, but let's just see how it actually turns out. Our biggest issue here is that apparently we never got Kenya the Spearow with this one, so we're going to have to actually like walk back to Goldenrod. Still, this should be perfectly fine. We can pick up Kenya, and then we'll be ready to go for the rest of this section. And sure enough, we make it to the Marlboro Man. We haven't been 1-hit KOing everything. We don't have this special attack of, say, Jynx, but I still think we've got decent chances here. It might be a 2-hit KO on the Weezing, but otherwise I think we get through. Let's find out. So here against the first Coughing, I'm just going to go for the Thunder Punch and one-shot that Pokemon. Second Coughing comes out and gets equally destroyed. Out comes the third Coughing. It never stood a chance. Now the Wheezing. We hit the Thunder Punch and we get a critical hit, so I don't know if it was a one-shot or not there. Still, that means that the rest of these Coughings go down nice and easy, and we're ready to move on in this one. I think for the rival, the combination of Fire Punch and Thunder Punch will be enough to get us the victory there, so I'm not super worried about what we're going to do in this section. I think we're going to be able to easily move on. So Rival 4 attempt number 1 right here. I'm going to lead off with the Thunder Punch on the Golbat, getting the one-hit KO. Magnemite comes out. We can Fire Punch it and destroy that Pokemon. Out comes the Haunter, back to the Thunder Punch, and it is a one-shot. So we get to level 38 right here as the Sneasel comes out. Fire Punch is the play. It's a 2-hit KO. We get a couple of quick attacks, but that's still perfectly fine. And now Meganium, we're going Fire Punch the whole way. We do over half. It tries to Poison Powder, and we just get the victory. I'm pretty sure that the Razor Leaf was not going to knock us out, so we get through that perfectly fine. And now we're ready to get through the rest of these randos and make our way to Mr. Wannabe Giovanni. And sure enough, we make it to the final executive with no issues. Let's see if we can just Thunder Punch everything down. So up against the Houndour, we'll just go for the Thunder Punch, and that gets the one-hit KO. Out comes the Coughing, it gets completely destroyed, and out comes the Houndoom. We Thunder Punch, it goes Bite, and we Thunder Punch again, and we easily win. So no issues there as we get through Wannabe Giovanni. We're ready to move on now in this challenge. We're ready to go to Clair. This is the point where I will likely forget Fire Punch in order to learn Ice Punch is the best strategy to get through that gym, since this is like the only part where we can't really go for our stab electric moves against most of the opponents, though at least Thunder Punch is neutrally effective when we get to the Kingdra. So I'm just gonna make the moveset change right now. We'll likely go back to Fire Punch when we get to the Rival 5 fight, but I think for now this is the best way to go. All we'll really be banking on is that the Ice Punch can one-shot against the Dragonairs, so I will pick up Never Melt Ice as my held item just to see if that gets us the range or not. If we don't manage one-hit KOs on those Pokemon, that's the only case where I actually think we might struggle here. We might have to go to Light Screen in order to survive against some Surf as well, because I don't expect that we're going to get like great ranges against that Kingdra. Probably going to end up being like a 3 or 4 hit KO if I have to guess. So having that extra survivability might be the key. And sure enough, we make it to Clair with no issues. So let's just see how she goes and if we can get the KOs or not. So Clair attempt number 1, we Ice Punch on the first Dragonair. That's a perfectly easy one-hit KO. Second Dragonair also gets wrecked by the Ice Punch. She sends out the third Dragonair only to get destroyed. And now we've made it to the Kingdra. I'm going to switch into Thunder Punch. And this looks like it might be a 2-hitter. She doesn't heal, and we managed to get the victory. The neutral damage there plus stab was enough to easily win. Of course, she's going to claim that dragons shouldn't go down to electric type moves. But we're going to tell her that really in this generation, outside of Dratini and Dragonair, all of the dragons are neutrally affected by electric type moves. So I don't think that she really has much to stand on there. And we can already see the strategy that we will use if we get to Lance with this Pokemon. Thunder Punch, Ice Punch will be completely OP at that point. We might swap out just a little bit at some points in order to get better coverage against very particular opponents. But I think we're going to do just fine as we go through the next section. I think Electabuzz is another Pokemon that gets through the league. That's my early prediction before we've actually gone too far into it, but I'm just going to see how this actually works out. Of course, for Rival 5, I'm going to throw Fire Punch back onto the moveset since I think that is the best strategy. I'm just telling these old guys all about my strategic thinking and how amazing I am at the game of Pokemon. They're going to tell Clair that obviously deserves a badge. I mean, he's planning to use the elemental punches like crazy here. She should get some Pokemon that have arms that can use elemental punches as well. That's their advice to her. And with that, we are ready to move on in the game. So Rival 5 attempt number 1 right here. I'm going straight for the Fire Punch on the Sneasel. That is a one-hit KO. Out comes the Magneton. We're going to stick with Fire Punch and destroy that Pokemon. Haunter's out next. Thunder Punch gets the KO there. We'll stick with Thunder Punch on Kadabra, one-hit KOing it. Meganium comes out. We're back to Fire Punch. This is a two-hitter as it just goes Reflect, so no threat from that Pokemon. And finally, Golbat has been hiding back here this whole time. The Thunder Punch destroys it, and just like that, we're able to move on in the game. And now as we stand on the steps of the league, I mean, it's just time to strategize for this next section. We do not get access to Shadow Ball from the looks of it, so we're going to have to get through with other moves. I think we're sacrificing something everywhere, but it's most likely best to go in with the Fire Punch, Thunder Punch, I think, against Will. That will be super effective against everything there. When we get to Koga, I think we stick with the same Fire Punch, Thunder Punch. Against Bruno, swap in Ice Punch. And then when we get to Karen, this could be another Dynamic Punch Pokemon when we get there. We fortunately don't have any type weaknesses. And then it's back to Thunder Punch, Ice Punch on Lancey Boy. So I just think that this Pokemon's going to crush in the next sections. We'll just have to see. We will step down to the Elekid member pick, but I'm going to do that after we go through the Magmar section. Magmar could be the spot where we actually lose a Pokemon. So let's find out if that works or not. So coming in with our Magmar here, our current moveset is Fire Punch, Sunny Day, Thunder Punch, and Headbutt. It could be a situation where we need to get a Sunny Day in order to knock some things out, but I think more likely we're just going to have to hope for some like Thunder Punch paralysis and some neutral damage from a physical move. We might have to forget Headbutt and go all the way to Return here in order to stand up to Clair, or Fire Blast is available as a possible move. We're actually going to get Flamethrower at level 41 though, so that will replace our Fire Punch. Then we won't get to Confuse Ray in time for Clair, so we won't be able to use that strategy. But I think there are enough YOLO strats at the end of the day that we can get this to go. We're just going to have to see how it actually works. We've obviously seen other fire types get through Clair, so the fully evolved form here with Magmar I think has decent chances. I'm much more worried about the baby Magby because that is going to be the weakest fire type that we've had at that point in the game, and it might be a case where she finally gets a win. It's going to depend obviously on the ranges that we get. We're going to test everything with Magmar first to see what sort of strategy actually works, and then we'll use that to inform how we use Magby when we actually get there. Just noting that Magby is going to be significantly weaker. We've got really good attacking stats with this Magmar, and it's really just our defensive stats that aren't quite as good, whereas Magby's not going to have nearly the offensive output. So here against the Marlboro Man, we're just going to go straight in for the Fire Punch here, getting the one-hit KO on that Pokemon. We can Fire Punch the second Coughing, also getting an easy victory. Third Coughing comes out and goes down. Now, I don't know if we would need Sunny Day to one-shot here against the Weezing. Let's see what the range is. It is a two-hit KO. Still, that's perfectly fine. We're one-hit KOing everything else, so we'll get the super easy victory, and we're ready to move on to the rival in the basement. I think Fire Punch and Thunder Punch will prove to be more than enough for this team, given the fact that we've got the Feraligatr coming in. I think that will give us enough coverage to get the job done. I don't expect the rival to be a particularly hard fight for this Pokemon. Magby could be a different story, even if it is running the super effective moves, just because, yet again, it's not going to have the stats. So I'm going to keep an eye on what kind of ranges I get here just to inform my decisions when we step down. So first up, we've got the Golbat. We're going to go Thunder Punch right here. It is a two-hit KO. We get Paralysis, but then we get Wing Attack. We'll just headbutt that Pokemon down. Feraligatr comes out. We go for the Thunder Punch and get Paralysis again. Water Gun isn't going to do that much, so we easily get through. We could have gone for Sunny Day to reduce damage, but I don't think we need to. Fire Punch now will destroy the Haunter. Sneasel also just never stood a chance against Fire Punch. And the Magnemite is obviously a joke. So we get through nice and easily, and we're ready to move on in the game with our Magmar. I think we've got all the moves that we need to get through everything else in this section. So let's just get straight up to Mr. Wannabe Giovanni. Now we do get to level 41 and learn Flamethrower here. It's not going to help us a ton in the next gym, but obviously we have to keep that move on the move set since it's effectively the best fire type move. Like we could go all the way to Fire Blast, but I think we would prefer Flamethrower in most situations. But if we do have to forget it for some reason, we at least have Fire Blast as a backup for the league. But But just like that, we make it to Mr. Wannabe Giovanni. I think we're going to be headbutting on the Houndour and Houndoom, and then just trying to knock out the other Coughing with Flamethrower. Let's see how this goes. So first up, Houndour comes out. Let's just headbutt this Pokemon. We get an easy one-hit KO. Coughing comes out. We can go for the Flamethrower right there to destroy it. And now Houndoom, headbutt, will do over half. It tries to Smog. Good job. We just easily win on the first attempt against that Pokemon. So just like that, we get through Mr. Wannabe Giovanni. It's on to Clair. This is the real challenge. I'm picking up the Pink Bow because I think we might need it. We've got the Sunny Day TM now. We could obviously use Sunny Day to reduce damage from something like the Surf that we'll get in this section. I still think Return might come in, and then we might have to mix and match with like Return plus Headbutt flinches in order to get the victory on the Kingdra. We're just going to have to see what kind of ranges we actually get when we get to that battle. And like I said, Sunny Day could come in here, both for survivability against Surf as well as a way to deal more damage, and maybe that makes the Flamethrower at least viable against the Dragonairs. I'm honestly not sure how this is going to go. We're just going to have to test and see. I think we're going to be running a lot of Paralyzed Cure Berry in order to try to get through this one. There is always a Mint Berry plus Rest strat as well to recover damage in the middle of battle, so we'll have to keep that in mind as well. And here, Headbutt is a 2-hit KO against the Dragonair just before Clair that is 1 level lower than her Dragonairs. So that tells me that the Headbutt strats are not going to be enough here, at least not on their own. Still, I'm going to test this one time just to see what kind of ranges we actually get on Clair. I'm going in with the Paralyzed Cure Berry now that I know that I'm not going to get like a 1-hit KO. So let's see how this goes. Maybe between flinches and being able to heal one time with the Paralyzed Cure Berry, we can get to Kingdra and at least have a chance. Let's find out. So Clair technically attempted number 1. I didn't heal the last time before coming in, so I still was paralyzed from the previous fight. Let's try when we're legitimately here how this goes. Headbutt does over half. A critical hit does not one-shot against this first Dragonair. That is a problem. Still, we get through that Pokemon. Out comes the Kingdra. We're faster. We can headbutt and flinch it. Looks like a 3-hit KO. Surf does massive damage here. She's gonna Hyper Potion. I think we need a flinch right here. Otherwise, we simply lose. And sure enough, we go down on that attempt. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to try to headbutt once against this Dragonair in order to hopefully get a flinch. That should happen a reasonable amount of the time. And then I'm going to set up Sunny Day and then knock this Pokemon out the next turn. So we like when we get Thunder Wave there. We'll go Sunny Day at that point. And now we'll just Flamethrower this Pokemon down. That does get the job done. We get to level 44 as Kingdra comes out. The Sunlight is strong, so that should reduce the amount of damage that we take. Now, Kingdra's defenses are pretty even, but we have more special attack than attack. Still, I think we need the Headbutt flinches to get the job done here. That's why I'm going for the Headbutt. We get a Hyper Beam that misses. Let's see what Thunder Punch does here. She went for Hyper Beam, and we managed to get a 3-hit KO. That brings out the next Dragonair. I'm going for the Headbutt here. It goes Thunder Wave, and then Slam. We'll just knock that Pokemon out. And last Dragonair, it misses Slam. We do over half. It hits Slam and gets a crit, taking me to 6 HP, but I do manage to get through with Magmar. She's gonna just question, I lost? What? Hacks. Clearly surviving with 6 HP after the crit there, completely unacceptable and unreasonable. Still, we're gonna take it. Now, I'm going to say very clearly, I think that range demonstrates that we might not be able to win this fight with Magby. Magby might be done here, just because that was close with a Magmar, and it required getting the 3-hit KO there on the Kingdra, basically combined with the Sunny Day, and it still requires you to get a 2-hit KO on the first Dragonair. I'm not sure Magby can pull this off. Now, I think Magmar has everything it needs to get through the next rival. We're really going to have to see how we do when we get to the league. Against Willy Boy, between Thunder Punch and Flamethrower, we should be perfectly fine. I'm really worried about this Pokemon against Lance, though. I don't know that it has enough to actually get the job done there. We'll obviously test it and see when we get to that point, but I actually think this is a Pokemon that might fail going up against the league. Like, even Bruno Bruno's Onyx could prove to be a little bit difficult, but assuming we get through that, I think we get to Lancey Boy, but then we might just not have the moves that we need to actually beat Lance within any reasonable number of attempts. But who knows, maybe we drop all the rare candies at that point, and that is the strategy. We'll just have to see. For now, we've made it to the rival, so it's just time to see if we can beat him and make our way to the steps of the league. So Rival 5 attempt number 1, we're going straight for Flamethrower on the Sneasel. That's an easy one-hitter. Feraligatr comes out next. We'll go for the Thunder Punch. It's a 2-hit KO. It goes Scary Face and then Water Gun, but obviously Water Gun doesn't do enough. Golbat comes out next. It hits a Wing Attack because we're so slow, and it's going to be a 2-hitter with the Thunder Punch. We get confused and hit ourselves, but then we do knock that Pokemon out. Haunter comes out next. It goes Curse because we're slower. We snap out of confusion, fortunately, and Flamethrower ends that Pokemon. We can Flamethrower here on the Kadabra, getting a 1-hit KO, and we'll Flamethrower here on the Magneton. And just like that, we managed to get the victory. It wasn't the prettiest fight, but we ultimately get the job done. So there we go. Magmar, ready to go to the league. I think it beats Willy Boy. I think it beats Koga. I think it might struggle a little bit with Bruno and Karen, and then I think we might be dead on Lance. We'll just have to test and see when we get there. But for now, we're gonna just move on with this Pokemon. With this one done, let's step down to the unevolved form. I'm gonna do Magby first since it's legitimately in the action. Then we'll look at Elekid and see how that Pokemon goes. So it is Magby time. We're coming in with Fire Punch, Mud Slap, Thunder Punch, and Headbutt. We're going to have to see how this actually works. I think we're going to have to upgrade moves quite a bit. And I'm just saying right now, I don't know that we get through Clair. I'm not confident that we get through Clair. I think we might get wrecked. There are plenty of fights that did not look great with our evolved form. So stepping down so significantly in stats might just be insurmountable for this Pokemon. Mud Slap might be our only YOLO play to actually survive against anything. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe it works out if we just get the right accuracy luck, but that's honestly about it. Otherwise, dynamic punch strats could come in. We will get access to Flamethrower, and we get Confuse Ray at level 43. That could give us a strategy when we actually get to Clair, and we could end up upgrading the Fire Blast. Honestly, I'm just not sure though. We're just gonna have to see how this actually goes. So first things first, we get to the Marlboro Man. Let's see what kind of ranges we get on this particular fight. I think Charcoal might be the best way to go just to get a little more damage output from our held item. So we'll simply throw that on and let's see if we get through or not. So here against the Coughing, I'm just going to go Fire Punch. We get the 1-hit KO on the first Coughing. Second Coughing comes out. We still one-shot, so that's perfectly fine. Third Coughing comes out. We one-shot that Pokemon. That brings out the Wheezing. The Fire Punch with a critical hit, one-shots. We get to level 37. We get to learn Flamethrower right here. It's obvious we're just throwing this on over Fire Punch. And now we should be able to just easily KO the remaining Coughings. And just like that, the Marlboro Man goes down. Magby is trying desperately every time it levels up to evolve into a Magmar because it's equally scared as me about how it's going to do against Clair. And since Magmar got through, it's like, let me become a Magmar so that I can actually get the victory here. It's good to see that this Pokemon would at least legitimately be able to get through to this point and then evolve, and you would know that you get to the league. But this might be done without the evolution. We'll just have to see. We've got 6 more levels to get to Confuse Ray, but we should get there just before Clair. For now though, let's take on Rival 4. Let's see if we can get the victory with our current moveset, given that our stats are just significantly lower than our evolved form. But we've got the Charcoal on, and we've already got Flamethrower. That could help a lot. Let's find out. So first up against the Golbat, I'm not going to go for Thunder Punch. I'm going to go for Flamethrower. I'm going for my strongest move. It turns out to be a 2-hit KO. We get confused. Wing Attack does a lot, but then we do get to knock that Pokemon out. Out comes the Feraligatr. We've got to go for the Thunder Punch here. We hit ourselves in confusion instead, and we go down. Let's try this again. So here, I'll just test what the Thunder Punch does against the Golbat. We get the paralysis here. Then it crits me with a Wing Attack. That's kind of terrible. Still back to Feraligatr without any confusion. We just barely survived the water gun. Oh no. That means that when we get to Haunter, we've got very low health, but Flamethrower will knock it out. Sneasel comes out. This Pokemon knows Quick Attack. It's on that basis that we lose that fight. We're going to have to try this again. So here, I think we Mud Slap at the Feraligatr, trying to get some misses. Then we go for the Thunder Punch, knowing that we'll need one more hit, but we managed to take no hits from the Feraligatr this time. So we actually have decent HP as we get to Haunter. We can just destroy it with the Flamethrower. Out comes Sneasel. It Quick Attacks, but we survive. It did 14 damage, so we would have to have at least 15 HP when we get to this Pokemon. And then the Magnemite, we obviously get the easy victory as a fire type, so we win. Still, not an easy fight. Takes a little bit of luck. We just happened to get the luck really quickly for him to miss thanks to the Mud Slaps, but that could be our strat here as we move on. For now, though, I think we get through all the rest of these rando rockets. We should be just fine to make our way to Mr. Wannabe Giovanni. Let's just see how he turns out. For now, we do make it to Mr. Wannabe Giovanni with Magby, so let's just see if we get an easy victory here before we have to go through the gauntlet that is Claire's gym. Up first against the Houndour, I'm just going to go Headbutt right here and get an easy one-hit KO. The Coughing comes out next. We can go for the Flamethrower to destroy that Pokemon. And now Houndoom, we Headbutt. We do over half with a crit. In fact, we just one-shot. So there we go. We at least get that done. And now we're ready to move on in this challenge. I think there's a decent likelihood that we end up going for Max Power Return. We could go for Sunny Day strats in order to try to get a victory that way. Maybe we just have to get a lot more flinches. I'm honestly just not sure how this is actually going to work out. So we're just going to have to test a lot of strategies to see as we go through this. Now here in the first battle of the gym, we get to level up and learn the move Confuse Ray. I'm going to learn this move currently over the Thunder Punch, and I'm going to see if this is enough to get me through with some Mud Slap, Confuse Ray, Headbutt strats on Claire. It's going to be really YOLO, but I think it's the best strategy that we've got. At least on the Dragonair just before Claire, it looks like the Headbutt will be a 3-hit KO on the Dragonairs. It could be that we're actually doing more damage to those Pokemon with our Stab Flamethrower, and there could be a situation where we actually want to replace like Mud Slap with Sunny Day as our strategy to get through here. I'm honestly not sure. We're obviously going into this fight with a Paralyzed Cure Berry. That's the only way I see us getting through. I think we confuse the first Dragonair. We hope it hits itself in confusion, and then we go to Headbutt after that. Let's see how this goes. So Claire attempt number 1, I'm going Confuse Ray on the Dragonair. It misses Thunder Wave. That's also perfectly fine. We're going to Headbutt after that. This is clearly a 3-hitter, but once it hits itself once, we actually get 2 hits there to take that one down. Now to the Kingdra, we go Confuse Ray. It goes Surf. We take massive damage. We simply get one shot from full health. We need a lot of confusion luck here, a lot of accuracy luck here. Otherwise, we are not getting the job done. Now, this does kind of support the idea of going Sunny Day, at least to take less damage from the Surf and maybe be able to survive a hit. So on that basis, I think I'm going to go for that strategy. So I'm going to forget Mud Slap to learn Sunny Day. I may, if this doesn't work out, go back to Mud Slap and try to go for the accuracy strats instead. But we're just going to need a lot of luck no matter how we do it. At least this will power up our Flamethrower as well for the other Pokemon, but it's more about defense. Let's see how this works. So in this case, I'm going to go Confuse Ray first and hope the Dragonair hits itself in confusion. It does. Now I can set up Sunny Day. It hits itself again. That's perfectly fine. Now Headbutt will knock that Pokemon out with a crit. We've made it to the Kingdra. We go Confuse Ray. It hits itself once. We're gonna Headbutt here and see what range we get. It hits itself again, and then we flinch it. She goes for the Hyper Potion. I'm gonna reset up Sunny Day here just to be more survivable as she hits herself again. Finally, she snaps out of confusion. I'm gonna reconfuse her. My problem is that I ran out of PP and Headbutt because I didn't recover PP. We're gonna have to try this again. Still, we can see the Sunny Day strat might give us a chance, so we're just gonna have to reset for it. This time we do get the Kingdra to use its Hyper Potion as it's confused. It hits itself again. It went Smokescreen on me once. and I get knocked out when it snaps out of confusion there, and I had let Sunny Day lapse. I was just hoping for the flinch at that point. We didn't get it. This time we flinch her, and she didn't go for the hyper potion, so we actually get through the Kingdra, but we're on about half health as we get to the next Dragonair. I'm going to go Confuse Ray on this one. I think we need it to hit itself. We're going to go Headbutt. It manages to paralyze me, and then Slam does a lot, so we would need a Slam miss at this point. We get it. We confuse the next Dragonair. It hits itself once. We need it to hit itself a second time. It hits the Slam, and we go down. That's the only time we've ever made it through the Kingdra in my resets. So this still just doesn't look like it's quite enough. I am going to make the YOLO choice to go for my 6 rare candies here. I think that's the only way that we get through, at least within anything reasonable. So I'm going to start just by dropping 2 of them and getting to level 45. Then depending on how this goes, I may add on more. For now, she's at least forced some rare candies from this Magby. Here, the main strategy isn't going to change, obviously. It's mostly just going to have the potential to change the ranges that we get when we use Headbutt here, particularly against the Kingdra. We're just hoping that maybe we deal a little bit more damage, and that allows us to get a better range, or maybe a lucky crit that takes this Pokemon down. Here we get a critical hit, so we do get through the Kingdra again. We're to the next Dragonair without any paralysis or anything. We're gonna still confuse this Pokemon. It misses a Thunder Wave, that's perfect. Then it hits itself, so we get through that Pokemon. Now we're on full health to the final Dragonair, and here we get the flinch and we get the victory. So at the end of the day, that works. But before we had the extra levels from the rare candy, we were 3-hit KOing against those Dragonairs. When we throw on the rare candies, we're now 2-hit KOing. Of course, that's owing to the fact that we're on max DVs. So those extra couple levels plus getting through a damage rounding threshold at level 45 is what actually makes that work. Still, Magby, it gets through. Now I think it has reasonable chances to get through the rival. We might have to replace Headbutt with Thunder Punch there, but that's really it. I think everything else will be perfectly fine on that fight, so we'll just test it and see. But I'm feeling pretty confident now that Magby actually makes it to the steps of the league, and it will still have 5 rare candies available for that point, so I think it's perfectly legitimate. So here against Rival 5, we're obviously going to lead off with Flamethrower against the first Sneasel. That's an easy 1-hit KO. Out next comes the Feraligatr. I'm going to go Confuse Ray here. It goes Water Gun. I'm actually going to set up Sunny Day as well. And then we're just going to start headbutting, hoping that it either flinches or hits itself in confusion. And we get a nice flinch there. It snaps out of confusion though, and we're on very low health going to the rest of the team. I'm going to go for the Flamethrower on the Golbat. It turns out to be a 2-hitter, so we lose. Let's try this again. So in this case, I'm actually going to set up Sunny Day first on the Sneasel. It tries to go Screech and fails, so we can just knock that Pokemon out from there. Now on the Feraligatr, we're going Headbutt for flinches, but we're also just trusting in the Sunny Day, and we will take that Pokemon down with more HP this time. Back to the Golbat, we're just going to go Flamethrower. It wing attacks, but we'll knock it out after that. That brings out the Haunter. We'll go Flamethrower right there, and we get the KO. Nice and easy. Kadabra comes out, Flamethrower yet again destroys it, and that brings out Magneton, which has been hiding in the back this whole time. It gets completely wrecked. So just like that, it took a couple rare candies, but Magby gets to the steps of the league. Doesn't need to go for return or anything like that at this point. It can just get the job done. That keeps return in the bag in case we want it later, but we're just gonna have to see how we do as we go through this section. There's a high likelihood at this point that we just keep our moveset as is, because you got to understand that with Stab, a super effective Thunder Punch is actually weaker than our Flamethrower. So unless Flamethrower is resisted by something, there's never really a reason to have Thunder Punch. Maybe in the next fight against Slowbro, that could be the way to go, but then we'll have the moves I think that we need for Koga. Bruno could turn out to be really hard with the Onix. We'll just have to see there. But maybe Confusion strats get us through. I'm honestly not sure. We'll test that all in the next section. But for now, Magby's done. It's time to look at Elekid. So here it is, Elekid time. It's Zap Chop being supported by Pokemon WWW411 Mark II. One of his Pokemon was just in the RSC Minimum Battles Challenge as well. This guy is just getting all the action in. And here we're coming in with Thunder Punch, Screech, Cross Chop, and Swift. There's a decent chance we might throw on Fire Punch here. We'll just have to see. But for now, we're going to move on with this set and see if we get the job done. So sure enough, we've managed to get to the Marlboro Man with no issues. The real question here is if we're going to deal enough damage. We don't have the offensive stats that Magby just had, so we might actually not be one-hit KOing against the Coughings. We're just going to have to see. So the first Coughing comes out. We're going to go Thunder Punch here. We do get the one-hit KO on that Pokemon, and now I think we get through this just fine because it's probably just a two-hitter on the Weezing. He sends the Weezing out fourth here. We're just going to Thunder Punch. It's a two-hitter, but it just goes Tackle, so we easily get through that Pokemon, and now we can just speed through the remaining Coughings. The Marlboro Man never stood a chance against Elekid. Proves that kids who don't follow the Marlboro Man are definitely doing much better in life, and just like that, we're ready to move on to rival number 4. Now, we might have to learn a move like Fire Punch here. I'm honestly not sure. It could turn out to be the best play, though, so I'm going to currently forget Swift in order to learn Fire Punch. We'll keep Cross Chop obviously on the moveset. Screech might be important at some point. Like, that could be a strategy for getting through the Kingdra, is Screech into Cross Chop. So we'll keep that available to us. But for now, let's just see if this moveset is enough for the rival. So here the rival leads off with the Golbat, of course. I'm going Thunder Punch and getting the one-hit KO. That brings out the Magnemite next. I'm going to go Fire Punch here, and that gets a KO on that Pokemon. Out comes Haunter. We go for the Thunder Punch. It doesn't get the one-hitter, so we get Cursed. We get to level 38 right here as the Sneasel comes out. It quick attacks. I go for the Fire Punch. This is a two-hitter, but we do take it down. And now we've got the Meganium in front of us. I'm going Fire Punch. It does about half. We get Poison Powder. And fortunately, that allows us to get the victory. If he were smart, he definitely would have gone for Razor Leaf there, but he's not smart enough to predict the fact that he's going to get curse damage. So just like that, we get through. We're ready to take on the rest of these randos down here. I think we'll be perfectly fine to get to Mr. Meet Your Doom. And then it's just a question if we can just cross chop his Houndoom down. And if we can, then we should be perfectly fine here. Let's get to it and find out. And of course, at this point, we can simply replace the Fire Punch with the Ice Punch for the next gym. I think this is the best way to go. I don't think there's anything that we need Fire Punch for in the rest of this section. And here we get to level 41 and we level up. We get to learn Thunderbolt. Obviously, we will learn that move over Thunder Punch, giving us an even stronger electric type move, effectively the best electric type move in the game. So with that, we're ready to move on, and we have some decent chances, I think, against anything that's neutrally affected by electric moves to just get some pretty easy victories. I think it's really only the Dragonairs where we're going to want to use the Ice Punch, and everything else we can probably Thunderbolt and win. And sure enough, we make it to Mr. Wannabe Giovanni with no issues, so let's see how he goes. Here against the first Houndour, I'm actually going to go Thunderbolt, and that will get the one-hit KO there. We'll stick with Thunderbolt on the Coughing, and now it's just against the Houndoom. I'm going to try to Cross Chop, and that is a one-hit KO, so we get the super easy victory, and we're ready to move on to Claire's gym. So here, the Ice Punch was enough to one-shot at least the Dragonair just before Claire, so I'm hopeful that it will be enough on Claire herself. I'm still going to put on the Paralyzed Cure Berry just in case we don't get the range that I'm hoping for. Let's see if we get through or not. So Claire attempt number 1, we lead off with the Ice Punch on the first Dragonair, and it's not a one-hitter. It's a two-hit KO. Oh no. And I don't think that the Never Melt Ice will be enough to get the one-hit KO there. We do level up right here to level 44, but we just don't have anything stronger than this. We get a nice Thunder Wave miss though, so that helps a little bit. We might just need a couple Thunder Wave misses. We get a nice Slam miss there. So now we get to the Kingdra. Let's see what we do. It goes Hyper Beam, and we do less than half with the Thunderbolt. She gets to Hyper Potion, Now we've paralyzed her though, and if she was just fully paralyzed for a turn, I think we would have won. So we're gonna have to try this again. That was really close on that first attempt. This time we freeze the first Dragonair, so we're gonna get through that one just fine with no paralysis. Second Dragonair comes out, Ice Punch, it goes Slam, so that's perfectly fine. No paralysis still. Third Dragonair comes out, we hit the Ice Punch, it goes Thunder Wave, we get a heal, so we get to just immediately knock that Pokemon out. Now, I think what we do is we go for Thunderbolt first, hoping for paralysis perhaps. She goes Smokescreen, and we've gotten her to very low health as she now Hyper Potions. A crit would win it here. Unfortunately, we didn't get the luck, so we lose. Let's try again. Next attempt, we are back to Kingdra. It hits Dragon Breath, and from this level of health, I think Surf just ends us. It's basically doing about 50% when we get hit by the Surf, so we're just gonna have to reset when we get that luck. I'm sure that within another level or two, we would be able to knock out these Dragonairs with the Ice Punch. I'm gonna try Never Melt Ice as a held item just to see if maybe it gives me the range on the second and third Dragonair. In this case, we'll be just trying to get the Thunder Wave miss from the first Dragonair, which is a 25% chance. So we'll have to reset a little bit for it, but this might be the better play because it does look like we're getting fairly close to getting the one-hit KO here. So I'm hopeful that the extra level will do the job. We can also obviously freeze the first Dragonair to get through it. So here we get to the second Dragonair, we Ice Punch, still not a one-hitter. It might be a range on those second and third Dragonairs, I'm honestly just not sure. I say that just because we're getting so close to one-hit KOing the first Dragonair some of the time, so it's clearly got some randomness to it here with this setup. But sure enough, I cannot get that to go. Still on attempt 16, we managed to get to the Kingdra on full health, so I'm gonna go for Screech here, and then try to follow up with Cross Chop, which now does over half, and then maybe Thunderbolt can end it. It does. So we actually managed to get through Clair on full health on the 16th attempt, just because we managed to get through all the Dragonairs without any damage or paralysis, and we managed to Cross Chop and then Thunderbolt down that Kingdra, and she didn't go for the Hyper Potion. She just went for 2 Smoke Screens instead, probably trying to get us to miss with Cross Chop, but we ultimately get the job done. It's not the prettiest fight by any means, and at the end of the day, we are going to likely need a lot of luck to get through the remaining major bosses in the game. But for now, hey, this Elekid does manage to at least find a way through the 8 gyms, basically by getting the Cross Chop. You got to remember, this Pokemon originally failed back on Falkner because of the fact that it just didn't have a super effective same type move to use against the Pidgey and Pidgeotto. And while we could have gone for like Thunderbolt or something there in order to guarantee the victory, Cross Chop has come in really clutch in a lot of spots against Jasmine, for example. So it turns out that adding this move on is enough to get this Pokemon all the way to basically the doorsteps of the league. Now we just have to see if we can cash it in or not against Rival 5. I think we go back to Fire Punch for this fight, but remember, in any case where Thunderbolt is neutrally effective, it's basically better than Fire Punch. It's only in the situation against like Meganium or against the Magneton where the Fire Punch will be the better play. Still, I think that will be the best way to go, and we're just gonna have to see if we can get the victory here or not. And it might be that we don't need the Fire Punch. We might just be able to Cross Chop in the right spots and get the victory that way. So I'm going to test and see. But I think we've got good chances of getting to the doorsteps of the league with this one. So Rival 5 attempt number 1 right here against the Sneasel. Thunderbolt is the stronger play, though the strongest play is Cross Chop. So we'll simply do that and get the one-hit KO. Out comes the Magneton. Cross Chop will one-shot that Pokemon. We get the Haunter out next. We'll go Thunderbolt and get the one-hit KO victory. Kadabra will do more of the same, Thunderbolt, but it does not one-shot, so we're going to have to knock it out the next turn. Out comes Meganium. I'm going Cross Chop. It turns out that probably Ice Punch is the better way to go here. It is. We get paralyzed by a Body Slam and we lose. Let's try this one again. So this time we actually one-shot the Kadabra rather than getting the 2-hit KO, so that's clearly a range. We can go back to Ice Punch on Meganium and we freeze it, so we knock it out nice and easy. And we've made it to the final Golbat. We'll go Thunderbolt and destroy that Pokemon. And I actually got through that with no damage taken. I came in with slightly less than full HP because of the previous fight, and I didn't heal. We didn't need it. We could actually win that fight really, really easily when we get the right kind of luck. So we'll take it. And with that, Zap Chop, ready to go to the league. Thunderbolt, Screech, Cross Chop, and Ice Punch on the moveset. I'm just going to say right now, Pokemon WWW411 Mark II, that I think we are going to get this Pokemon through the league. We're going to at least do everything that we possibly can to get it through the league, and then we'll just have to see how far it goes in the post game in Kanto. But for now, I think your Pokemon is moving on just fine. I think we've got the right moves to get through the next fight against Willy Boy. We can just throw on like Fire Punch instead of Ice Punch for that. But really, I mean, Ice Punch is probably fine. We just will need that move in order to use on the Exeggutor. That's the only Pokemon that we don't have neutral damage or better with Thunderbolt on. Then we'll just have to kind of see as we progress. But I got some confidence. So let's see if that confidence is misplaced or not as we go forward. But for now, a massive thank you to Pokemon WWW411 Mark II, who has been supporting this Elekid for 34 months. It's absolutely insane how long you've been supporting me between here, RBY, RSE. Like, dude, you're just a legend. I cannot thank you enough for the support. It helps me out so much. It helps my family out so much. It's helping me get closer to my goals of someday being able to not just be a full-time PokeTuber, but be able to be a full-time PokeTuber and do ad-free videos for everybody. If I ever make enough to do ad-free videos, I will. And it's only going to be because of patrons like Pokemon WWW411 Mark II if we ever get there. So take that for what you will, but dude, you're a legend. Thank you. Your Pokemon, Elekid, Zap Chop, is moving on. So with that, let's come back and look at our results so far. We maintain the perfect sweep against Clair. We did have to drop some rare candies here with that Magby, but that was it. Everything else has managed to get through. You could argue that Magby eventually gets through with enough Headbutt luck and Confuse Ray luck, but I'm just saying I felt after enough resets that it wasn't worth sitting there and resetting for that. You got to consider how many times you need that Kingdra to actually hit itself, and then the ranges that we were getting on the Dragonairs after that. Those are the spots where I'll start thinking about rare candies to see if I can get a better range. Going from a 3-hit KO to 2-hit KOs on each of the Dragonairs is a massive improvement in our odds of actually winning the fight. So just take that for what you will. Anyway, with that done, we are now ready to move on to our normal types in this episode. We're going to do all of the fully evolved ones first. I'm going to do Tauros, I'm going to do Miltank, and I'm going to do Ursaring. And then assuming that they all get through, which I think they will, we will move down to Teddiursa. So we'll get to that starting with Tauros. Let's see if the Raging Bull can just completely destroy Clair and the rival. So here we are with Tauros coming in with a moveset of Headbutt, Surf, Hidden Power Dark, and Fire Blast. I'm not sure we actually need Hidden Power Dark anymore on our moveset, but we will keep it since it's already on there because that would be our strategy against Willy Boy. I'm not sure how this is going to go, but I think we can deal enough damage with our normal moves that we should be able to get through this section of the game. But we already see this Pokemon has gone pretty hard trying to get moves to get through the last section against Jasmine. I mean, Hidden Power and Fire Blast, that's pretty bad. So we're just gonna have to see how this goes. Still, Stab Headbutt hits really hard at this point, so I think we've got enough to get through all these randos. Let's make our way up to the Marlboro Man. Now our next level up move at level 34 will be Rest, which could be useful, but it is TM, so I won't necessarily learn it immediately. Right now, we've got to get into the Marlboro Man fight where I don't think we one-shot with the headbutts. We're only at level 33 because we're a slow level up Pokemon. So we might have to go for max power return at this point. I'm honestly not sure. I'm going to test it and see. This Pokemon wishes so hard it had Earthquake already, but we're just going to have to see if this turns out to be enough. So Marlboro Man attempt number 1 right here. Let's see what Fire Blast does here. We miss with the first one, and the second one does not get a 1-hit KO. And I came in with no Headbutt PP, so we're going to be stuck spamming Surf here. It's going to take a couple hits on each of these coughings. We get exploded on. We can learn Rest, but more importantly, I'm going to come back and actually heal properly so that I can use Headbutt. Let's see how this goes. So here, when we can actually Headbutt a coughing, it is a 2-hit KO with this move, and we get a smoke screen from the first one. We're kind of hoping to flinch or at least us not miss too many hits here. Again, I will skip rest because we can already get the TM. Like, we could literally go get it right now if we wanted to. So I think it's worth not having that move. We make it to the Wheezing here. This looks like a 3-hit KO, but we fortunately do manage to get through that Pokemon. And with that, as long as we don't start missing like crazy, we should get through the remaining coughings without any issues. So sure enough, we beat the Marlboro Man when we come in with proper PP, and we're ready to go take on the rival in the basement. So Rival 4, attempt number 1 right here. First up on the Golbat, we're going to Headbutt. We do over half. We get Wing attacked, but we still knock it out in 2 hits. We get to level 35 right here. When the Magnemite comes out, I'm going Fire Blast, and that will one-shot that Pokemon. Out comes the Haunter. We're going to have to go with something similar here. I guess Hidden Power Dark is the solution, though it is still a 2-hit KO. Maybe Fire Blast is better. When we get to the Sneasel, I'm going to go back to my Headbutt, but not quite get a 1-hit KO. And that brings out Meganium. I'm headbutting here. It tries to Poison Powder. Let's see if Fire Blast ends it. It does not. It still survives, and we get wrecked. So we're going to have to try this again. This is really making the case to go for max power return here, though, given that we're not dealing enough damage to these Pokemon. And remember, we're under leveled relative to everything else in this challenge. Here, I just want to see what this does for the ranges in this fight, so let's find out. So here, if we come back with max friendship return, we one-shot the first Golbat easily. That brings out the Magnemite. We'll stick with the Fire Blast there and knock that Pokemon out. Out comes the Haunter. I'm going to try Fire Blast this time, and it still does not get the 1-hit KO. So we're not getting through that Pokemon with a 1-hitter no matter what we do. But now Return will destroy the Sneasel. We've made it to Meganium. Here Return does over half, and when it misses the Poison Powder, we can win. The big difference there is the fact that we're not even doing half to the Meganium with the Headbutt, and it's only because we're at such a low level relative to basically everything else going through this section. I mean, the slow level up group is just really bad at this point. We're only going to get to level 40 when we get to Clair, whereas a lot of Pokemon are significantly higher leveled at that point. And it's those levels, remember, that calculate into the damage calculation. It's not just your attack stat. So while our attack stat isn't bad by any means, it's just that we don't have the levels to back it up. Still, we have one of the strongest same type moves available technically at this point in the game. I've said that I'll allow the max friendship return. We're still going to throw this Pokemon into the struggle category though, because of the fact that it's got the Fire Blast and the Hidden Power Dark and it's going return. Its moveset is starting to look a little ridiculous, if we're being perfectly honest. But honestly, this Pokemon probably doesn't want Hidden Power Dark. It probably wants Hidden Power Ground as its strategy for getting through this section of the game. I just have to imagine that that move would do so much to help this Tauros get through. Still, if we struggle against Rival 4 without return, I just think that anything else is going to be tough for us too, because we don't have the special defense. We don't have special attack that's good enough to really use these special moves effectively. Like Fire Blast and Surf are basically there to answer the things that can't be hit with a normal type move. And I think we'll likely forget Fire Blast or forget, the Hidden Power or something for Earthquake pretty quickly. In fact, it might be Surf that goes off the moveset to learn Earthquake, since we can use the move deleter at that point, and that's probably the best solution for this Pokemon. Still, with max friendship return, I think this Pokemon's very likely to be able to sweep through pretty much everything. So we'll see if that actually holds up. Maybe it's not enough to 1-hit KO everything though, so let's find out. And here, sure enough, with no issues, we make it to the final Rocket Executive. Let's see how this one goes. So here, of course, he leads off with his Houndour. We're just going to go for return right here. I don't think Surf is worth it. We'll stick with the return when we get to Coughing. And finally, Houndoom, we can return, and that is an easy 1-hit KO victory. That guy was never meant to be a challenge, though. I think the return is going to be important here in this next gym, because I think the only other option we would have might be Icy Wind, but otherwise it would be to go for Blizzard to try to get through the dragons, whereas I think the max friendship return will just get the job done. We're going to have to see if that's actually the case or not, but I'm going to just test it and see as I go through this section. Now, I'm going to admit, I'm going to be a little bit more liberal about putting return onto a normal Pokemon that is a physical attacker, on the basis that it's almost certainly going to hit the moveset at some point. I view this a little differently than throwing return on a non-normal Pokemon, because we're talking about a same type move, where this is literally the best that this Pokemon can get in this section of the game. Like, not allowing a normal type to learn return when it does struggle feels a little bit to me like denying a poison Pokemon Sludge Bomb, for example, and just not letting them get enough damage on their opponents. That being said, I'm going to be less likely to throw it on to things that are not normal types, and even then, I'm still going to see what the ranges are before I throw the move on. But at this point in the game, things are getting strong enough that I think the return is the logical play. And here, as we get into the gym, we're going to have to see if it's actually strong enough to take down the Dragonairs or not. If it isn't, we might still have to change our moveset again. Now, at least on the Dragonair just before Clair, we did get the range to knock that Pokemon out. There is an argument for trying to give a Pink Bow here just to deal a little more damage in the hopes that that will allow us to knock out the 3 Dragonairs here and get a good range on the final Kingdra. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hope that I can just get the one-hit KOs and get through this nice and easy. So Clair attempt number 1, we're going return on the first Dragonair. We do get the one-hitter. Second Dragonair once again goes down. We get to level 41. Third Dragonair easily goes down as well. That brings out the Kingdra here. We go return. It does over half. We get hit by the Surf. She hyper potions, but at this point, we've effectively won this fight. So with that, we're able to now move on in the game. Clair, of course, is going to say that it's really, really cheap that we went return here. I don't necessarily disagree with her, but like I said, I don't want to sit here for massive amounts of time, especially for a Pokemon that I know is getting through. And while we could throw on Blizzard at this point, and I think get through that fight with, Headbutt Blizzard, I think that it's just much more logical to throw on return for this Pokemon in order to get through this section of the game. We still have to see if this turns out to be enough for the rival that's coming up. Plus, the fact that we've learned return at this point means that if we hit a hard wall later on, it's going to be us using our strongest move at that point and still hitting the wall. I mean, you could argue for Hyper Beam in some spots, especially post-game. There could be some like Quick Claw, Curse, Hyper Beam spots as like a YOLO strat to try to get through red or something. We'll just have to see, but we're always going to be under-leveled with this Pokemon, and that's going to be its biggest issue as it goes through the challenge. I honestly think Miltank is going to be a lot better because it has Milk Drink, because it can learn Rollout. It's always going to have better chances of getting through some of the toughest opponents. But now in this section, I'm making one more moveset change on Tauros. Because we're such a physical attacker, I'm putting Earthquake on in the place of Surf. Obviously, we can forget Surf with the move deleter at this point, and you throw on Earthquake to have a physical move to deal with that Haunter, to deal with the Magneton. I think this play just makes so much sense on this Pokemon that we simply have to go for it. Let's see if it works. So here we are, Rival 5 attempt number 1. We go return on the first Sneasel in one shot. We get to level 42 right there. Out comes Golbat. We're going to stick with the return there as well. Magneton comes out now. We can Earthquake this Pokemon, completely destroying it. That will bring out the Haunter. This is the other reason why we needed Earthquake. It's just way better than going for Hidden Power or going for Fire Blast there. We'll go back to return on Kadabra. That's going to bring out the Meganium. Return does over half. We get Poison Powdered, but we can simply knock that Pokemon out. And just like that, Tauros manages to get through this section of the game. Honestly, I just think this is the most logical play for this Pokemon. In the next fight, we might need to go for a moveset change, but I'm going to go in just trying to get through the next fight with Max Friendship Return. I do not think that the Hidden Power Dark is actually strong enough on this Pokemon to get through the next battle. Then I think we basically have to keep Fire Blast for specifically when we get to the Fortress on Koga's team. I think everything else we can go return, probably get the victory. Bruno is going to be tough for this Pokemon. We might have to throw on Blizzard at that point over Hidden Power, but really it's going to come down to whether or not we can Earthquake down the Hitmontop and the Onix and maybe just get the ranges with return to knock everything else out. We'll have to see. Then I think we've got everything we need for Karen, just assuming that we get there. And then Lance, yet again, we're going to have to make some massive moveset changes. We might be going Blizzard Thunder there in order to try to get through his dragons. So I don't think this is going to be a great Pokemon going through the league. There's a decent chance we might have to end up dropping rare candies. We'll just see how it goes. But for now, Tauros is through. Let's check in on Miltank. So here we are with Miltank, and we're coming in with Fire Punch, Defense Curl, Milk Drink, and Rollout, which I think is a far more interesting set. We might throw on Headbutt over the Fire Punch. We'll just have to see. But Defense Curl, Rollout, Milk Drink could be the strategy that just gets us through everything. And this Pokemon's moveset is just so much wider than what we were previously looking at with the Tauros plus healing in battle. I just have to think it's going to be enough to get us through basically anything. We have Ice Punch available to us. We have Shadow Ball available when we get to Willy Boy, but Defense Curl rollout is always just an OP strat that we can use. So we're just going to have to see how this goes. Let's get into it. For now, at least, I am going to just go Headbutt over Fire Punch though, because I think it will get us through a lot of these randos faster and it's same type. So it just makes too much sense on this Pokemon. And sure enough, we make it to the Marlboro Man. I might try to build up Defense Curl rollout here, but let's see how this goes. So Marlboro Man attempt number 1. I'm going straight for Defense Curl at the start. He goes for the Smoke Screen, which is pretty standard from him. So we're going to miss a rollout and get poisoned here. We kind of want luck. He doesn't know to go for the Smoke Screen at the beginning of battle. And we can always just heal up with Milk Drink now, as long as we have enough PP to get through these Pokemon. So it's really mostly just an issue of whether or not we take too much damage or we get locked into Defense Curl rollout while they're, critting us and we're taking poison damage. Still, we're going to get through at least the first couple coughings without any major issues. We have, in fact, made it to wheezing, no issues whatsoever. It's smoke screening more on me, which is good strategy. And then he explodes to knock me out. Let's try this again. Really, I just think we need the first coughing to do something other than smoke screen, which is not guaranteed to do. It doesn't know our moveset, and smoke screen can miss. And if we get that, then I think we get through just fine. This time he misses the smoke screen, so now we can go roll out. And he goes Sludge against me. We get poisoned, which is kind of bad, and we missed a rollout, but we eventually knocked that Pokemon out. We can knock out the next coughing easily. Third coughing gets completely destroyed. Out comes the wheezing, only to get one shot. Out comes the next coughing. We miss the rollout here. We'll just hit it again and knock that Pokemon out. And then the final coughing never stood a chance. Even poisoned, as soon as we don't actually get hit by Smokescreen, that's a super easy fight. So with that, we're going to be ready to make our way down to the rival, and let's just see if we can manage to beat him or not. My basic strategy here is going to be to go Defense Curl rollout against the first Golbat. So I'm going to put on a Bitter Berry as my held item just in case it tries to confuse me. We're going to see if that gets us through. So Rival 4 attempt number 1 right here. We're going for Defense Curl first. We get Confuse Ray, but that's why we put on the Bitter Berry. Now we can roll out. It's going to be a 2-hit KO on that Pokemon. We level up to level 35. Out comes Magnemite. We missed the rollout. I'm not sure what kind of damage we would do if we had hit, but here Headbutt is a simple 2-hit KO. Out comes the Haunter. This is where we actually wanted the rollout built up. We do knock that Pokemon out. We get the Sneasel. It goes Feint Attack. Rollout destroys it. Out comes Feraligatr. It goes Bite and we flinch. So we are going to lose this attempt. Let's try this again. Next attempt, we get through Golbat just fine. Back to the Magnemite. Roll out one-shots. That brings out the Haunter. We outspeed in one shot. And Sneasel, we miss the rollout, but that's perfectly fine. We can headbutt this Pokemon a couple times. We get a nice flinch. That will bring out the Feraligatr. We're just going to headbutt. It bites, but bite doesn't do enough damage at this point. So we actually win on the next attempt when we actually don't get confused or paralyzed. And with that, we should have an easy time getting through all these randos. So let's just make our way through to Mr. Meet Your Doom. And sure enough, Miltank makes it to the final Rocket Executive here. I think we're going Defense Curl rollout. Let's see how this goes. So up against the Houndour, I'm going to go Defense Curl first. It goes Feint Attack and does next to nothing. Now Rollout just one-shots that Pokemon. Out comes the Coughing. It's going to be a 2-hitter, but we easily take it down. And now the Houndoom. We hit the Rollout, and that's an easy victory on the first attempt. So with that, we're now ready to make our way down to Clair's gym, and we're just going to have to see how it goes. We might have to go YOLO and go for the max friendship return. I'm honestly not sure, but we're going to test a lot of things before we go that far just to see what actually works here. But now as we go to Clair, I think we've got everything that we need. We might need to throw on a lot of paralyzed Cure Berries to get through these fights. I'm honestly not sure, but I think Defense Curl rollout will ultimately get the job done. In a lot of cases, we might not even want a Defense Curl. We might just want to roll out and use that as our way to get through opponents, because once it builds up enough, we can probably get through the first Dragonairs on Clair's team, and then when we get to the Kingdra, we can start headbutting to get through. Let's see how this goes. I can confirm that on the Dragonair before Clair, it was a 2-hit KO with the headbutt. Our attack stat isn't quite as high as what we had with Tauros, so we're just going to have to see how this actually works out here. But I think Paralyzed Cure Berry is the strategy as we go into this fight. So Clair attempt number 1 right here. I'm going straight for defense curl against this first Dragonair. Of course, it hits me with Thunder Wave, but now let's roll out. It misses 2 Thunder Waves, but I missed a rollout, so we're getting wrecked here. Unless we can like hit everything from there, I'm just going to take the reset when we actually get paralyzed. That was kind of bad luck. And in fact, it might be better to just roll out from the beginning. I'm honestly not sure. And then try to get 1 Thunder Wave miss. If we can get that, we might have a chance. Remember that Thunder Wave miss is a 25% chance, but even if we don't get it, as long as we keep hitting, we might have decent chances of getting through here. We managed to get through the second Dragonair. The third Dragonair, we're fully paralyzed. And at this point, I think we go Milk Drink to get our HP back. And then what we're hoping to do is to actually headbutt this Pokemon in order to take it down. That will get us to the Kingdra. The question is, are we able to survive against Kingdra's hits? That Surf did massive damage, so we might be able to go for like 1 headbutt before we have to start milk drinking again, which this will be significantly easier if we're actually not paralyzed. Here, this time, we're simply going to go down. She actually hyper potions right there. That gives us a little bit of a chance, but I think we have to get to this Pokemon not paralyzed to have a real chance of getting through. This time, we're back to Kingdra, still using Rollout. If we don't get knocked out here, we might have a chance. We didn't get the range, but she hyper potioned, so we knocked her out the next turn. It came down to knocking out the first 2 Dragonairs and then just setting up the defense curl rollout on the third Dragonair. That was the strategy that ultimately got me through. I accidentally glitched out the game. You can see my bag is kind of messed up here with a question mark. If I go down to that question mark, the game will freeze. So I had to reset and just freeze the opponent to get through them again. But basically, that's the way you can get through with this Miltank, is by knocking out the first 2 Pokemon just legitimately and then going defense curl rollout behind that. So it's kind of nice to see that that sort of strategy can work out for us. And we're ready now to move on in the game off to the rival. Now, just like Tauros, we can learn Earthquake. I'm not sure if we're going to go straight for that move though, because unlike Tauros, we've got the rollout, which I think can build up enough to knock a lot of things out. And we should have a pretty easy setup on the very first Sneasel. So I think we just go with the Paralyzed Cure Berry and use that as our way to get through the Magneton. And then hopefully we can just sweep through the rest of the team with the rollouts. We'll have to see if it actually works out, but that is going to be my first strategy as we go into this next battle. And I think we keep rollout all the way for Lance. If we get to Lancey Boy, his flying types really aren't going to like this move. Claire's going to go warn him about it because she's like, I wasn't even weak to rollout and it still wrecked me from a slow level up Pokemon. I mean, come on. Lancey Boy, he must be shaking in his boots. He wishes he could go back to Gen 1 and have Barrier on his last Dragonite again as a way to try to survive. Still, we're going to have a lot of work to do before we get there. I'm really getting excited about getting to Will, because when we get to Will, I'm going to be able to do so many Pokemon in a single episode because we only have 1 trainer in front of us. So I think we'll be able to do like 20-25 Pokemon per episode and really just get through this league section quickly. That's my goal anyway. We'll see if it actually works out that way. I think Will, at the end of the day, won't actually wall as many Pokemon as we might hope, but he will force some rare candies out of Pokemon. He will force them to go for like all-out strats that might kneecap them later on because they have to learn a TM at that point that they might not be able to relearn later in the run after forgetting it. So we'll just have to see. But for now, we've made it to Rival 5. I've got Earthquake in the bag, but I'm going to avoid it for now. Let's just see if we can get through with this moveset. So Rival 5 attempt number 1, we're going straight for Defense Curl on this first Sneasel as it goes Fury Cutter. I'm going to go Rollout and destroy that Pokemon. Out next comes the Golbat. We miss the Rollout and get confused. I think this is fine. I'm just going to stick with Rollout here. It's going to be a 2-hit KO. We snap out of confusion and take it down. Magneton comes out. It's another 2-hitter. Fortunately, we had the Paralyzed Cure Berry on, so it goes down. Out comes Haunter, and we miss the Rollout. Are you kidding me? Still, we knock it out the next turn. That will bring out Kadabra, which is an easy 1-hitter. And out comes Feraligatr last. Rollout is going to be a 2-hit KO. It goes Water Gun. Then we miss the Rollout, and we get knocked out. Are you kidding me? We had 2 bad Rollout misses. If we don't get that, I think we win. Let's try again. Next attempt, we do hit rollout on Golbat, and it's a one-hit KO. We're back to the Magneton. It's gonna go Thunder Wave. That's fine. We hit the next rollout and just take it down. Back to Haunter. We hit rollout this time, so no curse. Now we've made it to the Kadabra. We can even just switch to Headbutt here. And on such high health, I don't think the Feraligatr can do anything to us. And it turns out to just be a 3-hit KO with the Headbutts. When you don't have curse there against Feraligatr, it's super easy to get through that fight. It was just because we had curse on the first time that we couldn't survive. Otherwise, we technically could have gone for a bunch of milk drinks. And here I just glitched out the game. Still, we've made it to the doorstep of the league with this Miltank, so we're just going to save right here and then move on in the game. So with our Miltank officially done now, let's move on to Ursaring and see how it does as a normal type in this fight. So it is Ursaring time, another Pokemon with really high attack in the normal typing, not as much speed. That's going to be the kind of interesting thing as we go through this, but we're coming in with Headbutt, Fire Punch, Rollout, and Rest. As soon as we get through Clair, we could technically go for Defense Curl, I believe, and basically copy that strat, but we also will get access to Earthquake as we continue. So who knows, Fire Punch might fall off if it becomes like not useful at some point, but for now it's probably our best play against a bunch of Magnemites, so we'll go with it. But I think this is another Pokemon that might go for the Earthquake later on. Now this Pokemon is going to learn Slash at level 39, which could be a massive upgrade on our moveset since it will give us that high crit chance move. So I will very likely throw that on over something like Headbutt as we progress. For now though, I think Headbutt is more than enough to get us through a bunch of these rando trainers. So we're going straight up to the Marlboro Man to see how he likes our big bear coming in here. So here against Papa Bear, the Marlboro Man sends out his first Coughing. I'm just going to go Headbutt here and get the one-hit KO. Second Coughing comes out. It's going to be more of the same. Our massive attack stat is putting in work here. The third Coughing actually manages to survive. That's a little bit disrespectful, but we'll just knock it out with a Fire Punch. Now we get poisoned by the Wheezing after a miss and get a couple sludges there. We still take it down and get to level 37. Now the question is, do we miss too many times on these remaining Coughings? We knock that one out eventually, and the final Coughing does go down. So in the end, we do get through with Ursaring just fine. It turns out to be like a range on those Coughings though, rather than being a guaranteed KO. That affects things quite a bit. We're going to have to see how we do as we progress through this one. Still, with that, we're ready now to move on to the rival. So let's just get down to the rival 4 and see how he likes when Papa Bear shows up in order to hopefully stunt on his entire team. So first up against the Golbat, I'm going to go Headbutt here. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, but we're easily knocking that Pokemon out. Magnemite comes out next. We'll just go for the Fire Punch here to take that one down. Out comes Haunter. This is where we're going to have to switch into Rollout. It curses, but we knock it out in 2 hits, getting to level 38. Sneasel goes Feint Attack. We go Rollout and destroy it. And now we've got the Meganium out. We roll out and destroy that Pokemon as well. So really no issues getting through there. Even when we get cursed, we can still just simply destroy the team. I think by the time we get to the next fight, we will have Earthquake, so the Haunter will just be a non-factor, but let's see how it goes. And here we level up and get access to Slash. For now, I'm going to throw it on over Fire Punch because I just don't think we really need Fire Punch for the rest of this section. There's nothing that I think we have to have that move for. And then we'll think about what to do with Headbutt later on. We might end up going Ice Punch for Clair. We'll just have to see. It depends on how much damage we do with our other moves. At this point, though, we'll just take the opportunity to get high numbers of critical hits as our primary way of possibly getting through. So just like that, we make it to Mr. Meet Your Doom at the end of this section. You might wonder how a bear could have just made its way all the way up to the tower, but if you read Japanese news, it's actually been a big thing over here recently of bears coming into towns, and like a bear actually like went into a big shopping mall with a bunch of people. It has been insane. So this is actually a little too close to home in some ways that we've got a bear up here at the top of the radio tower, but we're gonna bring everything that we have to bear and see if we can manage to get a nice easy victory here. So against the Houndour, we just slash and get the easy one-hit KO. Out comes the Coughing. Slash is another one-hitter, and that brings out the Houndoom. Slash and easy victory just like that. So with that, we're ready to move on. Let's go see how we do. Now, when we make our way to Clair, we might need to go for the pink bow. I'm honestly not sure. We'll test everything out just to see. But for now, I'm just going to see if we can get this victory or not. So here we are, ready to take on Clair with our Ursaring. I'm going to go in with a Paralyzed Cure Berry, and I'm going to see if that's enough to get me through with the Headbutt and Slash strats here. Hopefully we can get a timely crit or something that gets us through, but let's just see how this actually works out. So Clair attempt number 1, we go Slash on the first Dragonair. That's a one-hitter, at least with the crit. Second Dragonair comes out as we get to level 44. We destroy it with another crit. Third Dragonair comes out, and we crit a third time in a row. So I don't know if Slash is a one-hitter normally or not, but we've made it to Kingdra. Slash does over half, and we simply win. So Clair was a non-factor there for this Ursaring. It just completely came in and destroyed her gym. She's like those people up in northern Japan who are like running for their lives from these bears. I'm telling you, it's actually scary. Like, my wife and I have been talking about if we should move to another place. The thing is, we live in one of the few areas in Japan where there aren't wild bears. So we don't really have to worry about that. Like, my wife is legitimately scared of like a bear coming into our neighborhood or coming into our house and attacking us, which has been happening. So I'm just saying, I love Ursaring as a design for a Pokemon. Like, it's a super cool Pokemon, but the actual thought of this bear going into town and wrecking shop is a little bit real right now. You know, it's one of those things, right? No matter where you are in the world, there's some crazy thing happening, it seems, for everyone. So here it's that we're scared of bears, guys. Even though I love bears, we're scared of bears. Just take it for what you will. And it turns out that Clair is scared of bears too. So these old guys are going to tell her, hey, don't put us at risk here. Give that bear its badge so that we can move on in the game. And you got to hope that Lance can handle this. I'm not sure if Lancey Boy stands a chance, to be honest, but we're going to test it and we're going to see. So here, sure enough, we make it to the rival. We've picked up Earthquake, and I'm actually not going to hesitate. I'm going to throw this move onto this Pokemon as my answer to the Ghosts. So I'm going to have Slash, I'm going to have Earthquake, I'm going to have Rollout as my moveset going into the league. Plus, we will have access to Rest to heal. We can always go Mint Berry with the Rest strats if we need to. But for now, let's see if this moveset gets us through the rival. So here, Rival 5 attempt number 1, we're going straight for Slash on the first Sneasel. It did outspeed me, but I one-shot, so that's perfectly fine. Golbat comes out next. We're going Slash here as well. It's going to be a 2-hitter, but we easily take that Pokemon down. Magneton comes out. We can just Earthquake and one-shot. And now Haunter comes out. We outspeed, we Earthquake, and we one-hit KO that Pokemon. Kadabra can just get slashed and wrecked. And with that, we get to level 46 right here as we get to the Meganium. I'm going Slash. It does over half. It tries to body slam. It thinks it's a normal type. It isn't. And just like that, we prove that Ursaring is top tier to the league. No real issues. And we're ready to move on in the game. So with that, I think this Pokemon's basically set up for the rest of this run. We might have to go max power return in order to get through some really big threats. I'm not sure, but we've got plenty of TMs in the bag. We've got the elemental punches to help us if we do need some special damage. And like I said, we already have Rest on the moveset as a level up move. So Rest Mint Berry is a legit strat as we go forward. So we'll just have to see what works. For now though, that's another Pokemon through. Now we've got to step down to Teddiursa. But with Daddy Bear done, it's time for Baby Bear to get in on this action. Teddiursa time as we come in with Headbutt, Rollout, Fire Punch, and Rest. I think we know we're basically going for the same strategies that we just did with Ursaring. Though who knows, Ice Punch might be more important for this Pokemon to get through Clair. We're still going to get access to Slash very soon, just in a couple levels. So we'll get it even earlier than our evolved form, and maybe that gives us a decent chance to get through. We're just going to start by beating up on all the randos, of course, gaining as many levels as as we can, and then we will get to the real bosses of this section. Now with Teddiursa, I decided to put Slash on over Headbutt. My logic is pretty simple. I think we're more likely to need the extra damage and the chance to get crits to get through things, and we're not necessarily going to outspeed everything, so it's not like we can necessarily rely on flinch luck as we go through this. So I think Slash is just the better play. We can always relearn Headbutt if we want to over Fire Punch or something, but for now I'm going to keep this moveset as it is. And with no issues, we make it to the Marlboro Man, the natural enemy of any sort of bear, because I mean, I grew up with Smokey Bear telling us that people like the Marlboro Man are the ones who cause the forest fires. So I think it's time for little Teddiursa to get a little revenge on the Marlboro Man. So first things first, we get up against the first coughing and go Slash. This is going to be a 2-hitter, but it misses Smokescreen, so we take it down nice and easy. Second coughing comes out, we get a crit, so we one-shot. Third coughing lands a Smokescreen on me, but we still manage to knock it out. That brings out the Wheezing. We Slash. This looks like a 3-hitter, but we get a 2-hitter thanks to the crit. We get the fourth coughing out now. We can easily knock that one out. And finally, the fifth coughing, we miss a Slash. We have taken quite a few accuracy drops. We get poisoned as well. We just need to land one more hit though, and we do. So Teddiursa wins on the first attempt. And just like that, we're ready to move on to the rival down in the basement, where hopefully we've got the moves to get through them, but let's see how this actually works out when we get there. We might have to go rollout strats. I'm honestly not sure, but we'll test everything and see. One other thing I will say though, it's very nice to see that Teddiursa is another Pokemon that gets to this point in the game as a first stage, but could naturally evolve here. So even if it does struggle at any point in this, you would know that if you did a standard run where you did like Teddiursa at the beginning and you allowed evolution into Ursaring, you would be getting to the league with this Pokemon on minimum battles. No need to take any optional battles in the Johto section. Anyway, we've made it to the rival. Let's see if we can beat him nice and easy and get our little teddy bear through this section. So first up, we've got the Golbat in front of us, and we are slower than this Pokemon. We do have the Quick Claw on, and we get the Slash turn 1. We get confused after that, but we still knock that Pokemon out in just 2 hits. Out comes the Magnemite. It is slower than us, but we hit ourselves in confusion, and with that, we're going to be fully paralyzed and kind of in bad shape. When we do hit the Fire Punch, though, that is a 1-hit KO. Out comes the Haunter. We don't really have anything good here, and while I'd love to, like, rest here in order to get HP back, I think Curse takes us down too quickly. Still, we can get rid of the paralysis at least with that. So we'll knock this Pokemon out, getting to level 38 as the Sneasel comes out. I think this is another spot where we would have to rest, and I'm not sure with the Curse on if we can survive against those feint attacks. We get a critical hit there, and just like that, we're gonna go down on this attempt. We need a run where we don't get paralyzed, I think. Let's try this again. So next attempt, we're to the Magnemite, not confused. We're gonna Fire Punch here and knock that Pokemon out. That brings out the Haunter next. I'm gonna try to roll out against this Pokemon, hoping that we can build up the rollout from here. We get Feint Attack from the Sneasel. We don't KO it, and it just Feint Attacks me down the next turn. So this is not looking like a super easy fight for this Pokemon. A big part of it is that we don't have anything that's that great when we come up against the Haunter, so we might actually have to go roll out right from the beginning and hope that we can build it up enough to get through. Let's test this and see. So if instead we go roll out on the first Golbat, we get confused here, but if we can hit a couple times, we'll be able to knock this Pokemon out. Unfortunately, we're on low health, and at that point, we're simply not going to win because there's Quick Attack later in the run. This time, we do manage to hit both times on that first Pokemon, so we knock it out, but I'm pretty sure we have to keep the rollout built up as we get through the Magnemite, and when we hit ourselves in confusion, we're simply going to lose. It's not guaranteed that we get a Confuse Ray there from the Golbat. We don't get it this time, and here on the Magnemite, it is a 2-hit KO, but we do take that Pokemon down. Now we need a Quick Claw activation. We don't get it, and at that point, I think we're getting wrecked yet again. I'm going to see what Slash does on Sneasel. Without a crit, it doesn't get the 1-hit KO. We did get a 2-hitter there, but now Meganium probably just ends me. Sure enough, it does. So we're going to have to try this again. We get a Thunder Wave miss the next attempt, though, so we're actually getting back to the Haunter without any paralysis. Let's see what happens now on the Sneasel if we go roll out. It's going to be a 2-hitter. We take feint attack, but we do knock that one out. We're to the Meganium, and we don't get the quick claw, so we don't even get a chance to knock it out. We're going to have to try this again. So in this case, I think I'm going to change up my strategy and come in with a Mint Berry. Because we know Rest, we can do the Rest Mint Berry strat, where once we get through the Haunter, we can simply use that opportunity to heal up, get rid of any paralysis or anything that we might have, and immediately wake up and be able to attack again. That's probably the way to go. It also turns out that it's a 2 or 3 hit KO range with the rollout on the Golbat. So if we can manage to build up 3 hits, we might just be able to one-shot against the Magnemite that comes out second. Or alternatively, at this point, we might be better off just going Slash and getting the 2-hitter here, since we know we're going to be going for healing later on anyway. So now back to the Sneasel, we go Slash, it goes Feint Attack, and we Slash again. Now we're just hoping that we can somehow knock out this Meganium. It goes Razor Leaf, we survive, we get a critical hit Slash, but it's not enough to get the victory, so we're going to have to try yet again there. Maybe that requires the rollout at that point. I'm honestly not sure. So this time against the Haunter, I'm going to try to rest first in order to recover HP, and then I'm going to try to go for the rollout after this as I get to the Sneasel. Let's just see what rollout does here. Of course, we have to miss, and at that point, I think we simply reset because we're not going to have enough HP. Here, rollout 2-shots the Haunter. We get to the Sneasel again. It goes Feint Attack. We go roll out and knock it out. That brings us to the Meganium on the 4th turn of rollout. It goes Poison Powder. We do not manage the KO. It's just barely hung on with 3 HP remaining. That could be a range. Oh, we're gonna have to sit here and reset on this some more. I'm quite certain no matter what we do, we have to be able to one-shot on that final Meganium. So we're just gonna need a lot of luck to get to that point. So this time we're 2 Meganium above half health. It goes Razor Leaf. We go roll out. We don't get the KO yet again. This time it had 7 HP remaining. It still could be a range. I'm honestly not sure, but this is not looking great. We're getting kind of wrecked here. So this time we crit the Meganium and we finally managed to get through on attempt number 19. That is not pretty with the Teddiursa. But now that we've gotten through that, I think we've got decent chances of getting through. It certainly helped that he went Poison Powder there. Maybe he wouldn't have knocked me out immediately after that. I'm not sure. But the crit is really the key to get through at the end of the day. With that done, I think we'll get through all these randos just fine. So I'm going to make my way up to Mr. Wannabe Giovanni, where I think he's going to be scared of bears. I don't expect that fight to be difficult at all. And then we'll have to get to Claire's gym and just see how it goes with our Teddiursa. And sure enough, we make it to the end of this section just fine. And I think Slash is enough here, but maybe I'll roll out. Maybe that's the way to go. Let's test and see. So first up on the Houndour, let's just go for the rollout here. It's going to be a 2-hit KO as we get Feint Attacked, but we can destroy that Pokemon after that. Coughing comes out. It's the 3rd turn of rollout, but we still don't get the KO. So we have to hit a 4th time there. Now Houndoom, we missed the rollout, of course, and we're going Slash instead, and that crits to get the 1-shot. So we managed to get through just fine. We're ready to go to Claire's gym. We might need a Pink Bow. We might need to go for Mint Berry plus Rest strats here. I'm honestly not sure. The fact that we've already got Rest on the moveset does make Mint Berry Rest pretty viable, especially since we have no type weaknesses in there. We should at least be able to get a chance. So let's just see if it actually works out or not. So here we did manage to at least 1-hit KO against the Dragonair just before Claire. I'm not sure if we're going to get that on Claire herself though. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in with the Mint Berry as my held item. Then we can go Mint Berry Rest if we really need to get rid of a status. Plus we can heal 1 time in this battle. Let's see how this works out with our little Teddiursa. I think we might just be faster than the Dragonairs, and in which case, if we can 1-hit KO them, we might be fine. Let's find out. So Claire attempt number 1, we go Slash on the first Dragonair. It's not a 1-hitter. We get a 2-hit KO. Surf does pretty decent damage here. Still, I'm going to stick with the Slash on the second Dragonair and just take it down nice and easy. Third Dragonair is where I'm going to now go for the Rest to get my HP back and use that Mint Berry. Then we can Slash it, and we are faster. We get the nice critical hit there to take that Pokemon down. We've made it to Kingdra. It goes Surf, dealing pretty significant damage, but I get a nice critical hit Slash. We get another crit after she hyper potions, and she doesn't knock me out, so we take Claire down on the first attempt. She's like, you beat me with a little teddy bear? Are you kidding me? We got 2 slashes to crit in a row. The slash crits have been real between this Pokemon and its evolved form. Ursaring and Teddiursa are just like, we're gonna crit with every single slash, and there's nothing that Claire can do about it. So while this hasn't been the fastest run up to this point in this section of the game, we are making progress. And now we just have to see if we can get through the rival, where of course the real question is just, can we deal enough damage? We could always go Defense Curl Rollout at this point, since that TM is now legally available, since we can use Waterfall outside of battle, and that could be our YOLO strat. And of course we can always go Mint Berry Rest in order to try to get through, so we're just gonna have to see how this actually goes. Plus, I believe we still get Earthquake. Sure enough, it's on the moveset, so I'll likely learn Earthquake in order to try to get through that Haunter. We may go for a Quick Claw in order to get that to go. There are a lot of strategies that we have available, so we're just gonna have to see what actually works. So here I'm just going to learn Earthquake over the top of Fire Punch. Obviously, Fire Punch is relearnable at any point if we want it, but for now, I'm going to see if this turns out to be enough to get me through the rival. Let's see how it goes. So first things first, we get the Sneasel out. We're going to go Slash right there and get the easy KO. Golbat comes out next. We can stick with Slash here. It's going to be a 2-hitter, but we get the victory. Out next is Magneton. Earthquake will one-shot. Now we've got the Haunter out. It goes Confuse Ray, which is kind of good, but then it goes Curse after that, and we're hitting ourselves in confusion, so we're basically getting wrecked. We still knock that Pokemon out eventually. We can now Slash against the Kadabra and level up to level 46, but on Meganium, we would have needed a crit, and we didn't get it, so we simply lose. Let's try this again, and this time with that Mint Berry on. So Rival 5 attempt number 2, I'm gonna actually go Rollout from the beginning and knock out this Sneasel in 2 hits, and then when Golbat comes out, it's gonna Confuse Ray me, but if I manage to hit, I would just one-shot, so I'm just gonna take the reset there when I hit myself in confusion. It doesn't even have to go Confuse Ray against me, which is why I think this is legit. Still, I guess Slash is the better play there than going Rollout. Ultimately, we can get back to the Haunter. It curses. We're fully paralyzed this time. I'm gonna have to go for the rest as I get confused, and I hit myself in confusion yet again. So this time we at least get to Kadabra on green health, so we might just be able to go all in on attack against the Meganium. It goes Reflect, which is terrible for me. I'm gonna take the opportunity to rest here as we get hit by Razor Leaf and then Future Sight, and I think we would need a critical hit from Slash to get through there, and we just don't get it. The fact that it went Reflect is like the worst thing for us. It could have gone for a ton of different moves and we would have been fine. So that's just bad luck at that point. So back again to Meganium. This time it goes Body Slam against me. I managed to rest and recover HP, keeping in mind we're in a speed tie with this Meganium. A critical hits me and then I get a Future Sight that knocks me out. Are you kidding? We would have had at least a chance if not for the crit. So we've got to try yet again. So back again to Meganium. It crits with the Razor Leaf and we get knocked out after that. Yet again, if we get a non-crit, if we get Poison Powder, for example, that would be the ideal. That would give us a chance. We just haven't gotten it yet. So here we're back to Meganium. It tries to finally go Poison Powder. We get hit by Future Sight and then it misses a Razor Leaf and we don't manage to get the KO. It survived with 2 HP. Are you kidding me? And then we end up getting knocked out by a Razor Leaf. If we win one more Speed Flip, we also get the victory there. So that was just bad. We're so close to getting the victory and it just hasn't come in yet. This time we finally crit on the Meganium and we get through with our Teddiursa. It's not pretty, but the fact that we're at least in a speed tie there is enough to get the job done. I'm not sure how this Pokemon goes as we get into the league. We're going to be slower than basically everything. Even if we drop rare candies, I'm not sure if it's enough. We're going to have to hope that maybe Quick Claw luck or Mint Berry plus Rest sort of luck is enough to get us through. There's even a universe where we go for Sleep Talk here as our strategy to try to get this to go and just run with like Earthquake and Slash plus Sleep Talk, hoping that that gives us the chance to get through everything. I'm not sure how it's going to go, but we're just going to have to test and find out what actually works. For now though, Teddiursa has managed to get to the league. It's very likely going to struggle somewhere on the league though and get wrecked is my prediction. At best, I think it gets to Bruno. That's just my prediction right now, but it's based on the speed, it's based on the stats. I think that might be the wall. Tell me what you think down below, but for now, we have managed to get through all of our normal types, so let's check on our progress so far. So coming back, we can see yet again, everything is passing. I have put the Tauros into the OPTMs category, considering that it was using Hidden Power Dark, it was using Fire Blast, it was using Return. Like, it's kind of going all in on OPTMs. I think that justifies putting it there, but definitely debate me in the comment section down below. But I could not find a more reasonable way to get that Pokemon through. You could argue that if I had just stuck with Headbutt, maybe eventually I could have gotten it to go, but the moveset is so shallow that I just don't think I could have really done it, and I would have had to go for like Blizzard or something in order to get through Clair, and then by that point we're basically throwing on all the OPTMs, so I think it just belongs there. That's my opinion, but like I said, you can yell at me in the comments down below. But with that being done, we're ready to get to our last 3 Pokemon that I think are going to do pretty well here. We've got Gyarados, we've got Lapras, and we've got Sneasel. 2 water types, 2 ice types, 1 flying type. We'll just have to see how it actually works out. But all of these Pokemon should at least be able to learn something like Icy Wind for Clair. They might have better moves than that, like the Sneasel should be running Ice Punch. So it's really going to come down to the rivals in these ones. And I think we're going to have enough power to get through, but let's just see how it goes. I'm going to just do them in order. Gyarados first, then Lapras, then Sneasel, and then we'll wrap up and see what's coming next time. So here it is Gyarados time. We are coming in with Surf, Thrash, Rain Dance, and Dragon Rage. Let's see how this goes. Dragon Rage might have to come off the moveset at some point. It might just not be strong enough, but we'll see what we actually get. We're going to learn Twister at level 35, and that could be a legit strat to replace Dragon Rage in order to get through Clair, and that should come in time. So let's just see how this actually goes. But for this first section, I think we just spam Surf and we get through nice and easy. So I don't know. Technically, we should probably be going Thrash in a lot of these fights, since Thrash is so much stronger than Surf because of our higher attack compared to our special attack, unless there's like a really good reason to go for the Surf. Now, if we have situations where we have to use Thrash for a lot of turns, we might even go for a Bitter Berry to snap out of confusion instead of just allowing our Pokemon to be confused the whole time, and that could be a legit strat for getting through. But here against the Marlboro Man, I think we're going to spam Surf because of his lower special defense. I think it'll be strong enough, but let's see. So up against the first Coughing, I'm going Surf right here, and that does get the 1-hit KO. That makes me think we're probably one-hitting everything other than the Wheezing that's coming up. So we'll simply go with this as we slowly whittle these Pokemon down. Wheezing is in fact a 2-hitter, but it just goes Sludge. We get poisoned, but that shouldn't really matter. These last 2 Coughings are just going to get completely destroyed. And just like that, we're ready to move on in the game. It's time for the rival. Fortunately, when we get to him, his Magneton and Magnemite aren't really that great. They're not super fast, and I think that will give us some chances here to just take them down with Surf, though Fire Blast is a YOLO strat here as well, so we'll just have to see. Now in this next section, I'm going to lead off with Twister just to see how it does for us, but we'll very likely upgrade, like even Icy Wind will be stronger against the dragons. So we'll just have to see what actually works here. But before that, we're going to have to go take on the rival. I'm mostly just looking at the fact that when I level up in this fight, I'm going to have to learn Twister, I think, over maybe Dragon Rage. We'll see what it actually looks like here. But let's test this and see how it actually works out. So Rival 4 attempt number 1, I'm going to lead off with Rain Dance here actually. It goes for the wing attack against me, but now we can go Surf, and it's still not a one-hitter even with the Rain Dance going. That is kind of nuts. Here we get a level up to learn Twister. I'll learn it over Dragon Rage. That will bring out the Magnemite. I'm going Surf right here. This is basically why I Rain Danced, because I wanted to have more power. When I got to the Magnemite and the Haunter, they both do turn out to be one-hit KOs. Out now comes the Sneasel. I think we go Thrash right here. It turns out to be a 2-hit KO, but we do take that Pokemon down. Meganium comes out next. We are in kind of bad shape because we're not going to deal a whole lot of damage after it goes for the Reflect. Twister does basically nothing, and when it goes for the Reflect. We just didn't deal enough damage with Thrash to actually get through there. Let's try this again. So once again, I am going to go Rain Dance here on the basis of at least making sure the next two Pokemon are one-hitters. We can once again knock out the Magnemite, and we had the rain stop when we got to Haunter, and we don't get the one-hitter because we hit ourselves one turn in confusion. We're gonna have to try this again. In fact, since we know it's a two-hitter, it's probably best to go Surf first on the Golbat and then go for the Rain Dance, at least knowing that we can get that extra turn back and guarantee that we knock out the Haunter at least. Here, I'm gonna go Rain Dance again and then see what my Surf does against the Sneasel. It is a two-hitter, not what I was looking for. And now we're back to Meganium. We have to Thrash here. We get a nice crit. It goes Reflect, but that's not enough. So we do finally get through. Still, that is not as good as I was hoping it would be. Partially because we're more of a physical attacker and not a special attacker. Partially because we are at such a low level because we're in the slow level up group. But this is not looking great. And I always find it kind of nuts when you've got a Pokemon that is clearly meant to be a physical attacker and yet gets very few physical moves. This is a situation where I think the best play for this Pokemon is to go for something like Hidden Power Ground as its coverage so that it could use a physical move in addition to having, you know, some sort of strong normal move and use that as its way to get through the game. I think that's the ideal setup for this Gyarados when we're talking about full game solo runs, at least, is to have access to something like Hidden Power Ground so that it can at least hit things like Magnetons and things like Haunters with super effective damage and be physical. Still, I think we've got enough to get through the rest of this section with our damaging moves, so I'm just gonna spam away and hopefully get to Mr. Meet Your Doom at the end, where Surf should basically end him, but let's see how it goes. Now, fortunately, we make it to the final executive with no issues, so wannabe Giovanni here is about to get completely wrecked, I think. Let's see how it goes. So first things first, against the Houndour, we're just going to go Surf right here and get the easy victory. Out comes the Coughing. I'm just going to stick with the same because Coughing doesn't have great special defense. And that brings out Houndoom. We are faster, and we've got the same type attack bonus and super effective damage, so it never stood a chance against us. We completely destroy him, and we're ready to move on to Claire's gym. We're going to lead off, of course, with the Twister and see if that's enough. If it's not looking like enough, which it likely won't be due to our fairly low special attack, then I think what we do is we go for Icy Wind, and if that still doesn't get us through things like Dragonairs, then we will consider the possibility that we actually need to go through something like Blizzard to get through this section, which honestly wouldn't be great, but it might be our best play. It's also worth noting that if we get desperate, we could also go for the max Friendship Return in order to deal physical damage without as much chance of getting wrecked by confusion. So that could be a strat as well. We're just going to have to see how this actually works. And it's the Dragonair with Thunderbolt that we're the most worried about, since we're 4 times weak to the move. At least when we get to the Kingdra, it's not going to be able to use a bunch of strong attacks against us. And the other Dragonairs are kind of the same thing, but that Thunderbolt user could absolutely destroy this Pokemon. And here, as we go up against these Dratinis, they don't even go down to Twister, so that move is basically useless. So we're going to have to upgrade if we're going to get through. I'm going to just use Thrash on everything until we get to the gym leader. Hopefully that will turn out to be enough, but then we may need to make some upgrades. We actually get to learn Hydro Pump. I'm going to learn it over Twister right now because we can just walk outside and forget Surf. And at least Hydro Pump is our strongest same type move, so it could be really useful and make up a little bit for our low special attack. And here, Thrash is not enough to one-shot against a Dragonair, so I think that we just have to pull the trigger and learn that Icy Wind is our first play. If it doesn't work, then we've got Blizzard, and that's going to be our second play to try to get through this. Icy Wind is at least 1.5 times stronger here than the Twister was, so maybe it gives us a chance. I'm not sure. I think we need a Paralyzed Cure Berry. Let's see how this goes. So Claire attempt number 1, I'm going straight for Icy Wind here, and it does like half to the Dragonair. So yeah, that kind of justifies the Blizzard right there. Let's see what our Thrash does instead. It does more like 3/4, and we get a Thunder Wave Miss, so that's nice. Now we're confused on the next Dragonair and we get Thunder Wave and we're not quite able to knock this Pokemon out. It's just going Slam though. Maybe we can get through just on the basis that we're bulky and we're not really scared of anything from the Kingdra. We get a nice crit forcing the Hyper Potion. Now it Hyper Beams and we've gotten it to really low health and it Hyper Beams again to knock me out. So we lose that attempt. We're going to have to try this again, and I think Blizzard is the play. Now, as we've mentioned before, Blizzard is technically legal at this point. You could have legitimately afford this TM if you sold all the items that you could pick up at this point in the game. So we're going to allow it and not go directly to the OP TMs category as long as that's the only TM like that we need from the game corner. But let's see how this goes. So Clair round 2, we missed the first Blizzard, but we hit the second one. That takes down the first Dragonair in a single hit. Second Dragonair comes out and gets wrecked. We don't have to worry about Thunderbolt anymore. Third Dragonair we miss, but then it misses Slam, but then we miss another Blizzard. So we're in bad shape here. We're gonna get paralyzed yet again, but we are getting through to the Kingdra at least with more HP. We hit a Thrash. It Hyper Beams against me. I'm confused. Now we get it way down to low health. We're fully paralyzed for a turn. It goes Surf. It misses Hyper Beam. Now it goes for Dragon Breath and we get a crit. So we actually win on the second attempt with the Blizzards. Even after missing 3 out of our 5 Blizzards there, we still get the job done. So I'm just going to take it. We've got Dragon Breath now. We can use that later. Though I'm going to say, very honestly, we're most likely going to end up going for the Blizzard plus Thunder strats when we get to Lancey Boy at the end of this one. It just makes way too much sense with this Pokemon, assuming that we get 2 lands. We're going to have to see how it goes on the way to that fight. We might have to go max Friendship Return against Willy Boy to get through, just because the confusion from Thrash might be too much. And we might need to really YOLO some strats when we get to Karen. I think we can get through Koga and Bruno with this Pokemon without too much issue. Of course, that yet again will remain to be seen. But at the end of the day, I think we're just going to have to try everything and see what works with this Pokemon. We have plenty of moves available to us. It's really just more of a question of whether or not they're enough compared to the slow level up group. And the fact that we really lose a lot of special on this Pokemon compared to Gen 1. Like in Gen 1, it was a solid Pokemon all around. There wasn't a bad stat on it, but the special split seems to have messed with this Pokemon and made it significantly worse as a special attacker. Still, we're just gonna have to test everything and see as we progress in the game. Here we've made it to the rival and it's time to see if we can get a victory or not. So Rival 5 attempt number 1 right here. I'm going to go Hydro Pump on this first Sneasel. We miss. And then it's not a one-hitter, but we will get a 2-hit KO here, assuming we can hit. And sure enough, that Pokemon goes down. Out comes the Magneton. We're going to have to go Hydro Pump here as well. We miss and get Thunder Shock, and we don't quite get the one-hitter. So I think we've got a Rain Dance here, and that's the solution against the Sneasel and against that Magneton. So Rain Dance is in effect. Now we can go for the Hydro Pump in one shot. Out comes the Magneton. We Hydro Pump and take that Pokemon down. Out comes Golbat. We can try Blizzard and get a one-hit KO, so that's nice. Now I'm going Hydro Pump on Haunter. We miss, we get confused, and we hit ourselves in confusion, and then it curses, and we're hitting ourselves, and I think we lose at this point because we just can't land a hit. Let's try this again. That was kind of bad luck in a way. I mean, granted, you're likely to miss a Hydro Pump 1 out of 5 times, so it's not like it's terrible luck, but we do need all of the accuracy if we're going to get through this one, I think. Still, we're back to Haunter. We hit the Hydro Pump and we do one shot even without the rain. I'm going to stick with Hydro Pump on the Kadabra. It's going to be a 2-hitter. We can just thrash it down from there. Out comes Meganium. We thrash, doing pretty decent damage. Now we can thrash again and a crit just knocks that Pokemon out. So just like that, we do manage to get through the rival in a couple of attempts. It's not pretty, it's not perfect, but ultimately Gyarados gets it to go. Now we're going to check in on Lapras, which is, of course, the water ice type, and I believe has Sing on its moveset, so I think it's got a lot more going for it, even though it's also in the slow level up group. But let's see how it goes. So here we come with our Lapras, with a moveset of Surf, Confuse Ray, Sing, and Body Slam, and we will get Ice Beam at level 36. I believe that comes in time for Claire, so we may forget Body Slam to learn Ice Beam, or we might forget Confuse Ray. Maybe that's the way to go. I'm honestly not sure. We'll test everything and just see what actually works out, but for now, let's get the easy levels against these rockets, where we've got fairly balanced stats, but very low speed, so who knows how this actually works out. And sure enough, with no issues, we make it to the Marlboro Man. Let's see if we can just one-shot the Coughings. So on the first Coughing, we go Surf, and that is a one-hit KO. Out comes the second Coughing. It looks like we're going to be able to repeat that, and with that, I think we've got an easy victory here. Third Coughing comes out. We can completely destroy it. The Wheezing comes out. This should be our two-hit KO here. Still no problem. We can even Body Slam it down from there. And now the remaining Coughings should just get completely wrecked, so we're going to get through this fight nice and easy. With that, we're ready to go down to the rival. We're not super fast, so we might be outsped by things like the Golbat, and maybe that causes us some issues, but I think if we go for the right strategies, Sing, etc., we can get the victory. So let's just see how it goes. So Rival 4 attempt number 1 right here. I'm going to Sing on the Golbat, and with that, we can now just go into Surf, and this is going to be a 2-hit KO. That's the entire reason I went Sing here. We get through and get to level 35 as MkII comes out. I'm just going to go Surf, and that one-shots. Haunter comes out next. Surf is a 1-hit KO, so we get through that just fine. We made it to Sneasel. It goes for the Feint Attack and does barely anything due to our good special defense and great HP. So we've made it to MkII. Now I'm going Sing. It's put to sleep. I'm going to Body Slam it. It looks like Body Slam might be a 4-hit KO here. Still, as long as it stays asleep, we're going to get the victory. And just like that, we're ready to move on in the game. And we're very close to getting to level 36 and getting Ice Beam. So I'm probably going to put that on over the Confuse Ray. Keep Sing as my YOLO strat as we go forward. And that way, we should have plenty of damage dealing potential for basically everything. And Stab Ice Beam should answer whenever we get up against that MkII later on, plus the Clair gym. So I think this is perfectly fine from now. I think we're going to crush everything. I'm actually kind of lucky here because I didn't save before Rival 4, but it's perfectly fine because we beat him on the first attempt. If he had actually managed to knock me out, I might have gotten wrecked there, had to replay a bunch of this section. So I'm going to have to be really careful about actually saving as I progress. It's frankly a little bit of a meme for people to see me like save 3 times in front of a gym leader or something, and they always ask, why did you save so many times? And the honest answer is, sometimes as I'm playing live, I forget if I saved or not, or sometimes I completely forget to save and then I get wrecked. So I've made a habit of mostly saving whenever I think there's a reasonable chance that I could lose the next fight, or when I make it through something that turned out to be really hard. But every now and then I forget and I just get destroyed. So just take it for what you will. If you see me save like 3 times in front of Claire or something, it's because I legitimately can't remember in the moment if I saved or not. And you know, I clearly getting old. So, you know, old man catch tutorial here from Gen 1, obviously. So I have to kind of, you know, just ask a little bit of grace when I save like 20 times in a row. Anyway, with that, we can get back to this action where we're going to get to Mr. Meet Your Doom very easily here, and we're going to completely destroy him, I think. But let's see how he actually goes. So up against the Houndour, we're just going to go Surf. That is an easy 1-hit KO victory. The Coughing comes out. We can just stick with the Surf right there. No problems. And that brings out the Houndoom. We're faster and we Surf and one-shot. So just like that, the Rocket section is done. We've got the Ice Beam. I think we're perfectly good to go into Claire's gym. She's going to claim hacks because how did you get a Lapras? And how did you get Ice Beam on it already? I thought Ice Beam was only available after Lance. Little did she know, Lapras is the perfect Pokemon to go in and destroy her entire gym. So here we have made it to Claire. It's time to see if we can completely destroy her with this setup. Now that we've got the Ice Beam, I think we've got the victory, but let's see how it goes. So Claire attempt number 1 on the first Dragonair. I'm just going Ice Beam, and that is a 1-hit KO. Second Dragonair comes out. It's more of the same because it's too slow to do anything. Third Dragonair is also just an easy 1-hitter as we get through that. We're on to Kingdra. Ice Beam is neutrally effective, but I'm going to go Sing right here to put this one to sleep. Now go for the Ice Beam. It does about half. She wakes up, and she goes for the Smoke Screen, but it doesn't matter. We easily win, and she can call hacks all she wants, but this Lapras really is made to just destroy this gym. But with that, we're ready to move on in the game. We've got so much bulk with this Pokemon that I honestly think it can just tank pretty much anything. Who knows? Maybe Bruno proves to be a little bit difficult with his fighting type moves as we progress. But if we get to Lance, I think Lance is dead. I don't think Lance has any way to survive because the only Pokemon on his entire team that we don't have stab super effective moves against is the first Gyarados, and we can probably put it to sleep and wreck it. That's my prediction. We'll see if that actually works, but that's definitely what I'm going to be going for when we get to Lancey Boy at the end. You just add on top of that against anything, we've always got the win condition that is just get a lucky freeze and then knock the opponent out or sleep them and knock them out. I think we've got too many ways to get through with Lapras to ever actually fail against the league with this one. We'll have to see. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think we're going to have pretty good odds. So Claire, of course, is going to be educated about the fact that dragons are bad against ice types by these old guys, and they're going to demand she finally gives us our badge. We're ready to move on in this challenge. But with that, we're ready to take on the rival, so let's just see how he goes. Rival 5 attempt number 1 right here. I'm going straight for Surf on the first Sneasel. It is faster than me, and this turns out to be a 2-hit KO, but we do manage to get the victory right there on that Pokemon. Out comes the Magneton. We're just going to stick with Surf right here, and again, not quite get the KO, but we had the Paralyzed Cure Berry on, so we knock it out nice and easy. That will bring out Haunter. Let's go for an Ice Beam just because we can, and that will knock that Pokemon out. Kadabra, I'm going to Body Slam it and take it down nice and easy. Meganium is going to get the Ice Beam and get one shot, and now the Golbat, more of the same. Ice Beam, 1-hit KO. No chance to even do anything against us in that fight. We get through with basically full HP, and we're ready to move on to the league with this Lapras. In the next fight, we're really only worried about the Exeggutor, but we've got the Ice Beam for it. Slowbro, I guess we don't have any really good moves, but we could fish for a freeze or just sing in order to try to get through it. So I think we're going to be fine. I think we've got everything we need for Koga. Bruno is obviously going to be the one where we might have to get the luck to put things to sleep, but if we do, we'll probably be able to get through. Karen's going to be a troll, but then when we get to Lancey Boy, I think he gets wrecked. So I think there are legit chances for this Lapras. We're just going to have to see, but for now it moves on. It's time to get to our last Pokemon for today. It's time for Sneasel. So Sneasel comes in with Surf, Screech, Dig, and Feint Attack. Kind of interesting moveset. I think we're going to need to learn Ice Punch at some point in this. Of course, we've got things like Fury Cutter available to us. We can go Blizzard if we want to, all of which I think are legit, but I think Ice Punch is the first move that we throw on here so that we actually have some good stab. So I'm just going to throw that on immediately, and I'm going to throw it on over Screech right now as my main strategy. I think we basically only go Dig against like Magnemite, Magneton, which are 4 times weak to the move, and everything else will probably want to use a different move anyway. So that's going to be my strategy going through. With this setup, I think we're perfectly fine to get through all the randos here inside of the radio tower. So let's just see if we can get through the Marlboro Man nice and easy. It is always sad though when you get one of these physical attacking Pokemon that doesn't have any physical typings. So I don't know, maybe we have to go for Dig a lot more than I thought we would, just owing to the fact that we really don't have anything better. Like Ice Punch just doesn't seem to be strong enough to one-shot a lot of these opponents, even when they're using weaker Pokemon. So here we make it to the Marlboro Man. I'm going to try Dig first just to see if we can get the one-hitters that way, and hopefully this works, but if not, we'll just have to see what we can do instead. So up against the first Coughing, I go Dig, and it's not a one-hit KO, so let's try Ice Punch instead since it is a same type move, and that, at least with a crit, one-shots, but I'm not sure if it's going to get the one-hitter otherwise. Sure enough, doesn't quite seem to do enough damage. Still, we get to the Wheezing, where it looks like we might have a 3-hit KO. We get the 2-hitter thanks to a crit. We freeze the next Coughing, and we're going to be able to knock it out. And that brings out the final Coughing, where we just need to land one more hit. Fortunately, we survive, and we are able to get through on the first attempt. Still, we're suffering from the bad stats of this Pokemon not matching up to its stab typings. So we're going to have to see how we go as we progress in this. But now it's time for Rival 4. Let's see if we can get an easier victory on him. Maybe we can just get the right setups. Let's find out. First up on the Golbat, I'm going to go for the Ice Punch right here. It's a 2-hit KO, but we do manage to knock it out. Out next comes the Quilava. We're going to go Dig right here, and Dig is a 1-hit KO. That brings out MkII next. We can go for the Dig right here as well, one-shotting. We get into the Sneasel mirror match, so we'll go Dig here as well. It looks like a 2-hit KO here. The quick attack, fortunately, doesn't do enough, and that brings out the Haunter, where we can Dig. It tries to Curse, and we simply get the victory. So we beat the rival on the first attempt. It wasn't really hard, but still not as pretty as we might have liked. Let's see how we do as we keep progressing. Now, I am making one moveset change to this Pokemon. I'm actually letting it learn Agility and getting rid of Surf. Of course, we could already go to Blackthorn. It's already open, so we could go and use the move deleter to forget Surf and learn the move Agility. That's looking really far ahead, but it's thinking about the post game where we might want some Curse plus Agility strats to get through something. It might not work, but we can always relearn Surf. That's my logic. Let's see how it actually works out in practice. And here, with no issues, we do make it to the final executive, so let's just see how he goes. He leads off with the Houndour. I'm going to go Dig against this Pokemon. That's going to get an easy 1-hit KO. The Houndoom comes out next. We're faster. We just go Dig, and that also one-shots. Now the Coughing Ice Punch is enough to get the job done. And just like that, we managed to win on the first attempt and get through this Rocket storyline. It's on to Clair, where we just have to see what we can actually do there. But I think that the Ice Punch will be enough to get through the 3 Dragonairs. And then we're just going to have to figure out what we want to do on that final Kingdra, given that we don't have great special attack. But I think the Stab is going to be enough to guarantee the Dragonairs go down at least. I don't think we're going to quite make the level to get Slash in this section, though of course that will be a nice move to have on our moveset as well. Though we might skip it because we could always go for something like the Max Friendship Return instead. I'm honestly not sure. We're just going to have to see what actually works. And at least up to Clair, we get through everything super easily. So the real question is, how do we do against that Kingdra? I think I'm gonna go ahead and give myself a Paralyzed Cure Berry just in case she gets some sort of lucky paralysis on me. She can still go Dragon Breath when she gets to the Kingdra, for example. So let's just see how this actually works out. So Clair attempt number 1, we lead off with the Ice Punch on the first Dragonair. That's a 1-hit KO thanks to Stab. Kingdra comes out second, and at least Ice Punch is neutrally effective here. So let's see how much it does. It looks like a 3 or 4-hit KO. She misses a couple of smoke screens, then she goes for Hyper Beam. That allows us to knock her out. She won't use a Hyper Potion on the recharge turn. After that, we can simply knock out this Dragonair, and the last Dragonair will come out and get completely destroyed. So just like that, Sneasel gets through super easily. We're ready to move on in this one. Now, this is where I usually conjecture how a Pokemon's going to do in the next section. I have to assume that this one is going to get through Willy Boy. Since we have the Dark typing, we can't be affected by Psychic type moves, and we get the advantage of being able to use our own Stab Dark type moves against him. Like, I think that the Feint attack will be more than enough there. When we get to Koga, though, that's where things start to get interesting, because I'm not sure if we're going to be dealing enough damage with our physical moves, and we're just going to have to see if we can manage to get through or not in the end. There are some spots that I think just wall us, like when we get to Bruno. If we get hit by any fighting type moves, we're basically getting wrecked. So Bruno might be the actual wall for this one. We might just not be able to progress any further than that. So yet again, this is probably a Pokemon that gets saved by like a hidden power, and this might be like a hidden power flying sort of Pokemon in order to get through the fighting types with the physical typing. But at the end of the day, it might just not have enough to even get through Lancey Boy at the end, since he has that Charizard and it's going to go very likely Flamethrower on us, and I don't think we'll one-shot. So we might just be wrecked at that point. We'll just have to see how it actually goes, but I'm not super high on this Pokemon going through to the end of the game. Still, for now, we just have to get through the rival, and at least we have the chance to take on the league, where I think, again, we'll at least get through a couple members. Bruno, if we don't fail there, we might have decent chances of getting through to Lance, so we'll just have to see how it actually goes. For now, though, we've got to beat Rival 5, and let's see if we can get the victory or not. So Rival 5 attempt number 1, he leads off with his Sneasel. I'm just going to go Dig. Oh, he withdraws Sneasel to send out Golbat. What is this? Here we get confused and we fail to hit for a couple turns and we just knock ourselves out in confusion. Let's try this one again. That is very interesting that he'll withdraw Sneasel. Maybe not every time though. Still, we don't have a lot of strong moves here. I'm gonna go dig when he keeps that Pokemon out, knock it out nice and easy. We'll stick with the dig on the Typhlosion. It turns out to be a 2-hitter. Flame Wheel does massive damage with a crit, but we still take that Pokemon down. Golbat comes out next. We Ice Punch. We don't get the 1-hitter and we lose. Are you kidding me? We're gonna have to try this again. Here, when we do use dig against the Sneasel, we can 2-shot that Pokemon. And this time we're hoping for a non-crit Flame Wheel. We get it, but we get burned. Are you kidding me? I'm gonna have to reset at that point too. I don't think we deal enough damage. Here we get a non-crit Flame Wheel that doesn't burn us, so we do get to knock that Pokemon out. Once again, we get Golbat, we Ice Punch, it wing attacks. We are able to knock it out after that though. Magneton comes out, we can go back to the dig with 4 times super effectiveness. So we take that Pokemon down. Kadabra, I'm just gonna go dig using physical damage here. I think that's the way to go. And finally, the Haunter is slower. We can dig and actually win. So it takes a few attempts, but we do manage to get through the rival there. It's not the prettiest fight, but at the end of the day, you can get it to go. Yet again, I think we get through Willy Boy just fine. Everything after that, I think bets are off. We're just gonna have to see what actually works as we get in there. There could be some kind of interesting strats, but dig is one of our better moves at this point in the game. Max power return has to come in at some point. I mean, we can go Shadow Ball if we want to in the next fight. That's probably better than our feint attack, but we're just gonna have to see how this actually works. For now though, that does it for another episode. Let's just look at our wrap up and get this one finished. So with another episode in the books, we're now up to 98 Pokemon successfully getting through this section of the game, and 5 more that are in that OPTMs category with nothing in the fail column. Next time, we're going to be coming back with even more challengers. As I promised to you guys, we are going to do the massive bug type episode, but we're also going to get our evolutions in next time. So we're going to be coming back with Scyther and Scizor, who are legitimately in the action. Then we've got our member picks, Pinsir, Forretress, Shuckle, and Heracross to get in on the action. We're going to follow that up with all of the evolutions, including the 2 member picks that are Jolteon and Flareon. And I just have to predict right now that everything gets through. I just don't see, after what we've seen today, anything failing. The exception might be Eevee. Eevee might not have the moves for the rival's Ghost type and might not have good moves for the Magnemites and Magnetons. But otherwise, I just have to think that everything will get through in this section, either because it's a member pick that gets a lot of support or because it's just legitimately that good at this point in the game. Still, drop your own predictions down below. Let me know what you think, and we're going to be coming back with that. We're getting really close to the end of this section. Once we get to like the evolutions and whatnot, you know that we don't have that many more Pokemon to do. It's probably just going to be a few more episodes. I'll have to map them out when I get a little bit of time. But for now, I just want to give a massive thank you to the channel members, everybody who watches to the end. Thank you so much for your support and getting us to this point in this challenge. We're going to wrap this up hopefully by the end of August, and by the time we get to September, we will be on Willy Boy, and then I think things are going to start going really fast. Like I said, maybe 20 plus Pokemon per episode, and we're just going to try to get as many busted out as quickly as we can. Anyway, that does it for this one. I will see you guys in the next one. Later.